Chapter 1488. The situation changed in an instant. The arrogant Métis was suppressed, and the mahogany that filled the sky occupied the ground. The land within a 1-kilometer radius was affected and turned into a barren, scorched land. The land within a 10-kilometer radius was not much better. It was a mess like a natural disaster, and shocking cracks appeared. Yo 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 yo. An extremely smug laughter descended from the sky, and then the sky was suddenly covered. Métis, who was suppressed by the divine spell, bright god gate, raised her head instinctively. Dustless stood in front of her with an overbearing aura. Even the sky was dim due to his imposing figure. Miss Métis, grabbing Métis' chin, Dustless touched it twice. It was smooth and soft to the touch, like silk. Glaring at Dustless, Métis warned fiercely. Take your claws away, or I'll bite your hand off. Her eyeballs were about to fall out. Even though she was Dustless's captive, she did not maintain the attitude of a goddess. She was domineering, full of dignity, and disdained to be associated with mortals. However, she did not know that this arrogant look would instead arouse Dustless's interest. Bite me. Dustless put his hand next to Métis' mouth and said with a smile. Métis' eyes widened, and her ferocious nature erupted. She instinctively thought that Dustless was looking down on her. Just when she opened her mouth to defend her dignity as a goddess, Dustless' words forced her to close her mouth. If you're a dog that likes to bite people, feel free to do so. Dustless shook the thumb of his right hand and smiled. You're the one. Métis retracted her gaze. You're really stubborn. A mischievous look flashed across Dustless's brows. Just when he was about to teach Métis a lesson, he suddenly felt a gust of wind behind him. Ripples spread out in the void, and the air was filled with a destructive aura. Realizing the danger, he decisively used a counterattack. Binding Tao 81 sky-shattering. A barrier as thin as a cicada's wing formed in the blue void. Ka. However, this air wave that came out of nowhere was too terrifying and powerful. The skybreaker that had just appeared did not last for long, and its surface was covered with cracks like a spider web. Ha, your enemy is here. Mortis laughed heartily as he stared at Dustless, trying to find a hint of depression on his face. The one who should be worried is you, Métis. Dustless glanced at her and said calmly. My enemies are only two kinds of people. One is the god of disobedience, and the other is the god of disobedience. I don't think I need to tell you what it is. Hearing this, Mortis's smile changed slightly, and his expression turned gloomy. Other than the god of disobedience, only the god of disobedience could oppose a godslayer of the same level. Dustless would capture a godslayer as a servant out of boredom, but the other godslayers had no interest in that. I agree to be your servant. In the face of life and death, Mortis decisively abandoned his position. Idiot, do you really think it's a good thing to take me in as a servant? That means endless trouble. Mortis sneered in his heart. Other than a weirdo like Dustless, to a godslayer, the god of disobedience was a delicious cake. No matter which godslayer met the god of disobedience, the two would fight. The god of disobedience was nourishment for the godslayer. Just as Mortis was hoping that Dustless and this mysterious godslayer would fight, there was a fluctuation in the sky, and then a sudden sentence made Mortis vomit blood. Tithins, as expected of my disciple, you actually tamed the god of disobedience as a servant. The sound of nature was like an oriole flying out of the valley, gentle and melodious. This is simply. Mortis gritted his teeth so hard that they almost broke. He hoped that Dustless and the godslayer would fight. Now he had become the golden signboard for Dustless to make a name for himself. Mortis's eyes rolled back, and he fainted from anger. Long time no see. Dustless turned and revealed a gentle smile. The person in front of him was devastatingly beautiful. She was wearing a white traditional Chinese dress, and her delicate face was as exquisite as jade. There was no flaw to be found. When you see Master, you must use honorifics. The heavenly beauty glared at Dustless and immediately frowned. The god of disobedience is the cornerstone for the god-slayer to become stronger. It is a little extravagant to take her as a servant. It is a waste of her authority. Your personality hasn't changed at all. You are still as narcissistic as before, Dustless muttered. This person was sect leader Luo Hao. This is not narcissism. I am your master. As an existence at the top of the martial artist pyramid, Luo Hao's ears were sharp. She heard Dustless's ridicule clearly, and she immediately glared at him. Killing Mortis is actually a loss. Taming her is worth it. Dustless smiled. Martial arts could drive enemies away, and he could even sleep with her. She was simply a perfect lover bestowed by the heavens. Why are you looking for me? Dustless asked. Luo Hao lived in seclusion. Unless there was something, she would never leave Mount Lu. You are too unreasonable. I am your master after all. It is only right for me to visit my obedient disciple. Luo Hao had an expression of, I am here to visit you. Hearing this, Dustless shook his head. He would not fall for this, and Luo Hao would not be so bored. Could it be that god of disobedience Monkey King? Suddenly thinking of the Monkey King of disobedience who was imprisoned in the Western Heaven Palace, Dustless's eyes flashed with understanding. However, this might be a good opportunity. I can use this opportunity to get rid of all the god slayers in the world. Those self-righteous people are too troublesome. Dustless's eyes flashed with a ferocious light. In an instant he became the old him. The god slayers were also competitors. For example, Luo Hao and Marquis Warban were enemies who did not see eye to eye. Getting rid of one was one less enemy. Chapter 1489. The Monkey King of Disobedience was not an ordinary god of disobedience. Apart from his own strength, there were 3 gods of disobedience with his 2 junior brothers. When the time came, they would definitely attract the attention of the other god slayers. When the god slayers were attracted, Dustless could take the opportunity to get rid of them. The world is only so big. I alone am not enough to deal with it. I alone am enough for the god slayers. The others should be eliminated. With a cold light in his eyes, Dustless had a pretty good plan in mind. The purpose of my visit this time is the Monkey King, who is suppressed in the Western Heaven Palace. If I leave him alone after knowing his existence, it will damage my reputation. Grand Sect Master Luo said coldly, as the god of disobedience of our country, it is a great shame to play with a group of Japanese people. That's right. Dustless nodded in agreement. However, unlocking the seal of the monarch ape monkey is indispensable. There are some things that are indispensable, Luo Hao said worriedly. Hearing that, Dustless smiled but did not say anything. In fact, any seal or enchantment was a trivial problem for him. The difference in strength could easily tear it apart. However, for the sake of his own plan, Dustless chose to remain silent. In short, you have to join forces with me. Luo Hao ordered with a straight face and raised his fist. After that, the authority will be yours. His meaning was obvious. If you don't listen to me, I will beat you up. No problem. Dustless smiled and nodded. Then he shook his head and said, the authority is easy to talk about. I don't need it. It doesn't matter if I give it all to you. Dustless stretched lazily and said in a casual tone, you look really free and easy. However, it's absolutely impossible for you to refuse your master's things. You have to take what I give you. I, Luo Hao, will not order people around without a reward, even if you are my disciple. Luo Hao said bitterly. This guy, Dustless bitterly smiled. Hearing Luo Hao call him a disciple, it was extremely jarring. Back then, he had only taken Luo Hao as his master because he wanted to know more about the situation of this world. He didn't expect this guy to get addicted to calling himself disciple. I have an idea of how to unlock Monarch Ape. I will inform you when the plan is implemented. Luo Hao was a straightforward person. In the end, he added, our alliance may cause some people to be wary. You have to be careful. Just let nature take its course. If anyone comes looking for trouble, just let Fist teach them a lesson, Dustless said with a shrug. Then, Luo Hao's figure gradually faded away. 10 days later, on the Pacific Ocean, a luxurious cruise ship was slowly moving forward. Where did you two get the money? Dustless's astonished voice rang out from inside the luxurious cruise ship. Let me tell you too, robbery is illegal. Dustless stared sternly at the 2 girls in front of him. The 2 girls looked almost identical. One was Athena and the other was her mother, Métis. Brother Chun is right. This is a very serious issue. You two must not rob, Shizuka Kusanagi said beside Dustless. Just as she was about to continue lecturing Athena and Métis, a voice stopped her. Come here quickly, Shizuka. There's a swimming pool on this cruise ship. It was Wanli Guyoli's voice. Hearing that, Kusanagi Shizuka's eyes lit up. Then she ran over without stopping. Only Dustless, Athena, and Mortis were left behind. You two idiots, bring me along the next time you rob someone, idiots. Dustless's expression changed immediately. He pointed at the two girls and scolded. Besides, there are too many targets on this cruise ship. Next time, we will rob people of gold and treasures. Do you understand? Métis and Athena stared at Dustless speechlessly. Weren't you the one who said that we are going for a vacation? Métis said indignantly. After a few days, she was completely terrified. She even agreed to become Dustless's servant. You're right, Athena nodded in agreement. Dustless was at a loss for words. This was the condition that he proposed. Staying in Shizuka's house all day long would be a waste of time. Forget it. I'll only do it this once. Don't do it again. Wu-chan was also too lazy to talk nonsense with the two of them. This pair of mother and daughter definitely grew up eating fodder. Sometimes their IQ was frighteningly high, but when they encountered some small problems, they just couldn't turn the corner. Athena, you can leave first. I have something to talk to Métis about, Dustless said with a serious face. However, there was a hint of unnaturalness in his eyes. You two. Athena frowned. She stared at the two for a few seconds before nodding and walking out of the cabin. She finally left. Dustless heaved a sigh of relief. He thought that Athena would ask for more details. He didn't expect her to be so easy to deal with. Don't tell me you want to. Métis's face was slightly red. Her delicate face was covered with a layer of redness. She had already guessed Wu Chen's motive. At that moment, her entire body involuntarily trembled. Boom, boom, boom. Just as he was about to tear off Métis's clothes, an untimely vibration and a dull thud filled the air. The cruise ship that was sailing smoothly suddenly shook violently. A fight of this scale. Are they disobedient gods? Dustless frowned. A murderous aura flashed in his eyes. It was fine that he was attacked for no reason, but he was especially angry that he was disturbed when he was doing something like this. Let's go out and take a look. Métis, who had escaped from the devil's hand, heaved a sigh of relief. Dustless's gloomy expression was ignored by her. Chapter 1490. On the deck, the blue sky was filled with endless waves. The salty sea breeze blew in from afar, making one feel relaxed and happy. Boom, boom, boom. Thick water pillars kept splashing, and exaggerated waves surged. The luxurious oil tanker that Dustless and the others were on was almost overturned by the waves. That's the god of disobedience? In the distant sky, a monster that was dozens of meters long was rolling violently. She only needed to sway slightly, and violent storms and waves would roll up on the surface of the sea. An exaggerated wave rushed straight toward them. Everyone be careful. Grab the railing to prevent the impact. Erica and Liliana reminded loudly, indicating for everyone to grab something fixed. Ah, how disrespectful. It's rare for me to go out, and I can't believe I'm encountering such terrible weather. A dissatisfied snort was heard. Looking toward the source, Dustless and Mortis walked out of the cabin. A huge wave that was dozens of meters tall came into view. Ka, ka, ka. High-density flashes of light flowed from the tip of his thumb, crackling like thunder. Furthermore, due to its overwhelming power, even the void appeared to be in a distorted state. Another move that I've never seen before. Mortis, Athena, Erica, and Liliana looked at each other. They could see the helplessness in each other's eyes. Dustless could come up with a different move every time. Wang Su's flash. With a flick of his finger, a blue light shot out. Its speed was instantaneous. The moment it shot out, it approached the huge wave without limit. Boom, boom, boom. Violent explosions swept out. The violent impact flattened the huge wave that was several meters tall. The sky that had been darkened by the seawater also regained its brightness. Mortis, Athena, Erica, and Liliana. The four of you come with me. I'd like to see who's so disrespectful. It's rare for us to go out on a vacation. Yet you're so disrespectful. Dustless completely ignored the existence of gravity. His body floated up, and so did Erica and the other three girls. King, as your knight, I no need. Waving his hand, Dustless interrupted Hui Na from the Qingqiu courtyard. He said softly, Jinghua and Yoli are not fit to fight. You'll protect them for now. I understand, King. Hui Na from the Qingqiu courtyard nodded gently. Damn it. This time, I must get rid of you, the giant snake roared. The serpent, whose body was covered in scales, roared. Her huge serpent head opened and closed, revealing a dense row of fangs. The cold glint of her fangs could even pierce through steel. Just looking at such a huge monster would make people tremble in fear, not to mention fighting it. This monster was called the god ancestor Angela. However, at this moment, she wasn't in a good condition. Her thick snake body was covered in wounds and blood. She looked terrified. Moreover, ancestor god Angela's breathing was chaotic. She was gasping for breath. It was hard to imagine what kind of existence could defeat Angela with her. You've been reduced to such a miserable state, yet you're still so stubborn. It's comparable to your thick scales. A male voice said. His tone sounded very noble. This person was wearing a black tuxedo, a mask on his face, and a gun in his hand. He was very calm. Facing the giant body of the god ancestor Angela, he was very calm. She was the American god slayer, John Pluto Smith. Then I'll die with you. You won't be able to escape unscathed. A strange smile appeared on the snake head. The god ancestor Angela's smile was very crazy and ferocious. With just you. John Pluto Smith curled his lips in disdain. Although he didn't directly mock her, anyone could hear the deep disdain in his tone. This was naked and direct disdain. Humph, I hope you can continue to be so carefree later. The god ancestor Angela cursed fiercely. You won't even have a corpse left. It's useless to talk. Just come at me. John Pluto Smith waved his hand and said calmly. Ah! Suddenly, a shrill scream came from the mouth of the god ancestor Angela. An indescribable sense of danger suddenly descended. However, the surroundings were as quiet as still water. There was no change. Only the god ancestor Angela's body expanded. Could it be that this guy wants to? John Pluto Smith's expression didn't change, but his tone changed. She smelled a strong sense of danger. An inexplicable voice in her heart warned her to be careful. She couldn't help but take a few steps back, and calmly looked at the god ancestor Angela. Want to run? No way. You still. The god ancestor Angela laughed crazily. The masked Superman over there, as well as this scary snake, stop right now. This is my territory. Stop fighting immediately. Before he finished speaking, the god ancestor Angela was interrupted by an unexpected voice. John Pluto Smith and the god ancestor Angela were both stunned. They turned their heads and saw 5 tiny shadows rushing over. Masked Superman? The corner of John Pluto Smith's mouth twitched. He retorted angrily. Don't call me by such a vulgar name. My name is John Pluto Smith. If I say you're a masked Superman, then you're a masked Superman. Don't quibble. Dustless, who was rushing over, curled his lips. He was holding a gun, and wearing a mask that looked like Ultraman. If he wasn't a masked Superman, then what was he? Of course, Dustless's gaze fell on the god ancestor Angela. Wasn't this guy the tool that Luo Hao said needed to unlock one of the seals of the ape god? Chapter 1491. John Pluto Smith frowned. Seeing Dustless staring at Angela, she felt like she was being looked down upon, or even ignored. After giving Dustless a fierce glare, her eyes fell on Dustless's followers. These people don't seem to be ordinary. The blonde and silver-haired girls are not simple. Especially the 2 girls who look almost the same. They are even weirder. John Pluto Smith's eyes darkened. If someone could see her face clearly under the mask, they would find a delicate face, as well as that cautious expression on his face. He should be an East Asian without a doubt, but who is this guy? He's not Luo Hao. After staring at Dustless for a while, John Pluto Smith frowned and said. His eyes were faintly fixed on Métis and Athena. He knew that there was something wrong with these two little girls, especially the little girl in the black coat, Métis. She gave John Plutosmith a very dangerous and evil feeling. "Who are you?" God Ancestor, Angela asked in a deep voice. "My lord, there shouldn't be any grudges between us. If you really want to take revenge." The snake eyes glanced at John Plutosmith cunningly. Angela pointed at her and said, "Please go find that cunning God Slayer." Bah! Upon hearing this, John Plutosmith's face twitched. Although she was not afraid of Dustless and the others, she could not allow herself to be used as a tool by her mortal enemy, Angela. "Don't talk nonsense. I don't know him, and there is no grudge between us," John Plutosmith snapped. Her tone was a little angry. "I'm not interested in where you two came from, or why you are fighting. In short, there are only two choices in front of you." Dustless completely ignored the two's verbal battle and said, "Fighting in my territory is an unforgivable crime. Either you submit to me, or I'll send you to hell for free." After these words, the world fell silent for a few seconds. The sound of wind and water stopped, and time seemed to stop. Everyone looked at Dustless in a daze. Erica, Liliana, Métis, and Athena were all in a daze, not to mention John Plutosmith and Angela. "Am I dreaming?" After about a minute, John Plutosmith muttered to herself. She pinched her right hand, and the intense pain made her grit her teeth. "Have you gone crazy? Do you know who I am? I'm John Plutosmith, the Godslayer from America, and that guy is Angela, the boss of the Lord of the Flies. Remember who you are talking to before you sleep talk." John Plutosmith shouted. He looked at Dustless with an unfriendly gaze. Clear baleful chi had already surfaced in his eyes. If it weren't for the fact that Wu Chen was outnumbered and had a mysterious background, he would have already charged over. And Angela was also full of murderous intent. She said coldly, "I want to tell you that this is the Pacific Ocean, the most vast ocean in the world. It doesn't belong to anyone. What you two are saying is bullshit." Hearing this, Dustless laughed and said overbearingly, "My interests and hobbies are different from others. The more dangerous something is, the more I like it. The more others are afraid of something, the more I like it. Even the so-called Godslayer is no exception. If I say the Pacific Ocean is mine, it is mine." So arrogant? John Plutosmith and Angela looked at each other. They could see the anger in each other's eyes. They had always been unreasonable, but this time, they were looked down upon. "You think you are Dustless? You kill the Godslayer, because you don't like him?" John Plutosmith sneered coldly. The story of Marquis Warban being killed by Dustless had already spread throughout the world. Dustless. Hearing this, Dustless's face was as strange as it could be. Not only that, but Athena and the others were also the same. They all looked at John Plutosmith speechlessly. "Since you know this name, don't you know that his original body is right in front of you? Is there something wrong?" John Plutosmith's mouth twitched. He found that Dustless and the other four were looking at him like he was an idiot. He was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. As the Demon King, when had he ever been provoked like this? All humans were respectful when they saw him. Why? Because he was the legendary Demon King, the Godslayer who could shatter heaven and earth with a flick of his finger. Now this group of people was looking at him like he was an idiot. How dare they? "Don't you think I look familiar? Or it seems familiar?" Rubbing his nose awkwardly, Wu Chen asked with a speechless expression. "Could it be that you are?" Angela also noticed the strange faces of Erica and the others. He stared at Dustless for a few seconds, and a vague figure suddenly appeared in his mind. He blinked, and the vague figure became clearer and clearer. Angela's face changed and he said hoarsely, "It can't be wrong. He is Dustless, the new Demon King who was recently born. I once sent my subordinates to investigate him in detail. No wonder my eyelids were twitching today. It was because I met this jinx." Angela's face was full of bad luck, and John Plutosmith was not much better. "Am I famous?" Touching his chin, Dustless was quite surprised by the intense reaction of the two. Chapter 1492. In the vast Pacific Ocean, there was an island that stood out. The island was called Itagami Island. It was a man-made island made of resin, metal, and organic matter. It floated in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. It was a city where humans and monsters coexisted. Seriously. In the secluded park, a young man with delicate features sighed and looked up at the sky. His bright eyes were dim at the moment, as if covered by a layer of mist, very blurred. At least let me prepare before sending me to this world. Before Dustless could ask about transmigration, Linger, the incarnation of the system consciousness, impatiently threw him into this unfamiliar world. Of course, it wasn't too unfamiliar. At least Dustless knew a thing or two about it. Itagami Island? Isn't this Akatsuki City's territory? Dustless looked around and thought to himself, but that kid doesn't seem to be in power yet. The so-called Akatsuki Empire hasn't been born yet. Grumble. Dustless heard a sound that made his balls ache. His stomach grumbled. He hadn't eaten for an entire day. The worst part was that he didn't have a single cent in his pocket. Let's find something to eat first. Dustless got up and stretched his body. Just as he was about to leave, a series of hurried footsteps came from afar. A few black figures swarmed over. "Brat, give me your money," the blond young man with an arrogant expression roared. "You're really bold, aren't you? You dare to come out alone, especially in such a deserted place. Give me your money, or I'll beat you to death. This brat is so fair and beautiful. He can't be a poor ghost, right? Don't worry, he's so handsome. We can sell him off." Haha. This group of gangsters surrounded Wu Chen so tightly that not even a drop of water could trickle through. All of them laughed unscrupulously. In their eyes, Wu Chen was shining gold. "Oh right, I forgot my job. How stupid." Dustless cursed in his heart and immediately shouted at them. "I'm in a very bad mood now. I'm also very hungry. If you don't want to be beaten up, quickly give me the money." Hearing this, the faces of the few people who were laughing suddenly froze as they looked at Dustless in shock. Is this guy crazy? There are 6 of us, and this kid wants to rob us all by himself? The golden-haired young man who spoke before waved his hand and pointed at Dustless. He ordered his subordinates, "Beat this brat to death and teach him how to behave." As soon as he finished speaking, the golden-haired young man's group of dogs pounced on him. Lightspeed kick. For the next minute, the sound of punches and kicks did not stop. "Really, you bunch of poor bastards. You don't even have the money to feed yourselves. How are you going to feed your parents? They're all a bunch of scumbags." Dustless cursed as he walked. His eyes lit up as he rummaged through the wallets of these people. It was estimated that they could only afford a meal together. Perhaps they would have to sleep on the street again tonight. As for the group of scum they had met before, they had been beaten to a pulp by Dustless. Coo coo coo. While counting the money, Dustless's stomach growled again. "Whatever, let's go eat first." Dustless quickened his pace. Just as he was about to leave the park and look for a restaurant to eat, a familiar figure blocked his path. "Little girl, move aside." Dustless frowned as he stared at the black-haired girl. "Don't call me little." The beautiful girl raised her eyebrows and put her hands on her hips. There was an inexplicable sense of majesty about her that made others feel respect for her. "She looks like Natsuki Nangong. No wonder I found her familiar." Dustless suddenly understood. The girl was wearing a gothic loli outfit. She carried an umbrella and a lace fan. Her delicate appearance and petite figure made Dustless think of only one person, Natsuki Nangong. "Consider me unlucky," Dustless muttered to himself. He chose to take a detour. "Stop right there." Natsuki Nangong did not intend to let Dustless go. She asked, "Did you hear who made that huge explosion just now?" "Sorry, I don't have time to talk nonsense with you, but..." Dustless thought about his huge appetite. He knew that the money he robbed was not enough. He took the opportunity to rob her. "If you are willing to treat me to a meal, I don't mind telling you who did it." Natsuki Nangong was stunned. She looked at Dustless with surprise. Then she said with interest, "You are quite bold. You dare to bargain with me? We all have one head and 2 hands. Why wouldn't I dare?" Dustless looked at Natsuki Nangong and asked. In this world, only the true ancestors stood at the top of the pyramid. Moreover, there were very few of them. Including Koju, there were only 4 in the modern world. Dustless was not afraid of encountering a true ancestor. Forget it. Tell me. Natsuki Nangong handed Dustless a wallet. She did not want to waste her breath. The huge explosion just now was not normal. She only wanted to know who the culprit was. The strength of the explosion was rare. Dustless took the wallet and turned to leave. He said without thinking, "It's just a small matter. Don't worry. A few idiots who overestimated their strength tried to rob me. However, they were too weak and I robbed them instead. There is no need to worry." "Brat, stop right there," Natsuki Nangong shouted after being stunned. Natsuki Nangong's mouth twitched. Her expression was gloomy. She cursed inwardly. "So you are the culprit. No wonder I did not find anyone else. How dare you cheat me of my money?" Chapter 1493. Nangong Nayu showed her invincible might. Her tone and temperament were inexplicably majestic, which made Wu Chen stop in his tracks. He turned his head and looked at her in surprise. "Is there anything else?" Dustless asked. "Food is the most important thing to people. Delaying other people's meals is illegal." "Then I'll treat you to prison food right now." Nangong Natsuyu glared at Dustless and said impolitely. She grabbed Dustless's right hand and called the Special Regions Police Force. "Let go of me. Don't test my patience," Dustless said coldly with a hint of threat. "Or you'll regret it. You dare to force me? Interesting." Hearing this, Nangong Natsuyu was not afraid. Instead, she was very interested. She said provocatively, "If you can make me let go of your hand, then I'll let bygones be bygones." Nangong Natsuyu grabbed Dustless even tighter. "This guy's skin is so well maintained. His hand is so slippery." Nangong Natsuyu was surprised. Of course, it was only for a short moment. "You forced me to do this." With a strange smile on his face, Wu Chen opened his mouth and shouted, "Come and see, there's a female hooligan taking liberties with a man from a good family." She even. Dustless was about to attack Nangong Natsuyu when his mouth was sealed. "You dare to spread rumors? I'll kill you." Nangong Natsuyu's face darkened. She suppressed the anger of wanting to swallow Dustless alive. She covered Dustless's mouth with one hand and warned fiercely, "You better not make a big deal out of a small matter." Whoa. Dustless was not afraid of Nangong Natsuyu. He called out 2 more times. However, with his mouth sealed, no one could hear clearly what he was saying. But this was not important. Dustless's lion roar had attracted a lot of people. "Hurry up and call the Special Regions Police Force. That little girl is so strong. She can't be a demon, right? Becoming a pervert at such a young age. Sigh, it's such a pity that you're in the prime of your life." 20 to 30 seconds later, a large group of passers-by heard the news. No matter which world it was, no creature could change their nature of gossip. The passers-by all talked about Natsuki Nangong. Dustless's mouth was covered by her hand, and she even grabbed his hand tightly. It was obvious who the victim was. PFFF. Hearing those ear-piercing words, Nangong Nayu almost spat out a mouthful of blood. She glared at Wu Chun with fire in her eyes, as if she was a scum. Nangong Natua was furious. Today was the most unlucky day of her life. Not only had she been played by Dustless, she had also been cheated of her money. What made her collapse the most was that she had been treated as a pervert and a scumbag. "Brat, you win." Nangong Natsuki finally chose to compromise and let go of Dustless's hands. "Hehe, you said you would let bygones be bygones. Don't go back on your words, young girl." Dustless showed a sly smile. Looking at Nangong Natsuki's red face, he swaggered away. "What's your name?" A cold voice came from behind him. "My name is Dustless," Dustless said without turning his head. He didn't need to turn around to know it was Nangong Natsuki. Boom boom boom. A violent explosion suddenly swept across the area. A powerful shockwave came from the front, shattering all the windows. Due to the power of the shockwave, even the cars were sent flying. "What is that?" Dustless raised his eyebrows. He looked up and saw a glowing horse standing in the middle of the road. It was emitting a powerful aura. The shockwave just now came from it. "It looks like a familiar beast." Dustless narrowed his eyes and muttered to himself. Summoning a familiar beast in public and causing such a big commotion. He will definitely be arrested and interrogated. Not to mention, he has a magician with him, Nangong Natsuki, who is also an instructor of the Special Regions Police Force. More and more people are provoking me today. Nangong Natsuki's tone was cold. She walked past Dustless and headed straight for the scene. It seems like she really didn't want to pursue Dustless. Brat, you're lucky this time. Don't let me see you again. Due to the urgency of the situation, Nangong Natsuki had to ignore Dustless for now. Leaving the familiar beast alone would cause more damage, and the loss would be greater than facing Dustless alone. There was a voice in Nangong Natsuki's mind telling her that she will meet Dustless again one day. We will definitely meet again. Dustless shrugged and shook his head helplessly. This is Itagami Island. Nangong Natsuki is like a local snake. If he doesn't want to meet her, he will have to leave the island. Akatsuki Koju's Akatsuki Empire hasn't been born yet, so it's better to never come out. In order to not starve to death, I'll just call it Akatsuki Empire from now on. Wu Chen smiled and muttered to himself. At the same time, he followed Nangong Nayu. She looks familiar. The girl in the school uniform was holding a silver spear. She looked majestic, her watery eyes were bright, and combined with her cute face, it made people's eyes light up. In a trance, Wu Chen thought of a familiar figure. So it's Yukaina Kimura, then the silver-haired boy next to her is Akatsuki Koju. Due to the distance, Dustless's vision was very blurry. He had to use the Tensigen to observe the surroundings. It's Akatsuki Koju and Yukaina Kimura. Seeing this, Wu Chen laughed secretly. Wind blew under his feet, and his pace was faster. He turned into a gust of wind and floated to the center of the incident. Chapter 1494. This guy still dares to follow me? Does he want to die? Humph, but it's good that he followed me. How dare he speak ill of me? Nangong Nayu had been secretly observing Dustless's movements. This guy was extremely hateful. His ability to trick people was extremely vicious. It made people clench their teeth. This was the first time she was treated as a female pervert. She felt extremely aggrieved, and there was a ball of fire in her chest that she had to vent. It was a good time to vent on this idiot who was causing trouble. The street released its own curly beasts. According to the Sanctuary Treaty, it is only right to execute the two of you on the spot. The girl waved her silver spear. Every word she said was like a gem. Her voice was bone-chilling as if she really wanted to kill them. It seems that my worries were unnecessary. In the distance, the shifty-eyed young man said in surprise, "This girl is so strong?" He actually managed to beat those two demons into a retreat. This person had a head of silver hair, and was wearing a hat. He looked like a rat that could not be exposed to the light. He looked rather wretched. He was one of the strongest vampires in the world, the fourth true ancestor Koju. But there is no need to kill them. Koju was overflowing with love. He felt that the girl was going too far with her silver spear. After some hesitation, he decided to charge forward. It seemed that he wanted to stop the girl's killing intent. Why is this guy a vampire so kind? Dustless was speechless at Koju's meddlesome behavior. Most vampires were not good people. Most of them needed to drink blood. Of course, only a special existence like Koju could be considered a weirdo. Forget it. There is no chance for me to make a move now. I will take advantage of this opportunity to eat and dash. Dustless's eyes glowed. There was no one in the shops. Most people had run away when the two demons attacked. Many restaurants were deserted. It was perfect for poor people like Dustless to eat. The money I stole from those hoodlums and the money I swindled from Natsuki Minamiya is quite a lot. But if I keep wasting it, I'll end up sleeping on the streets sooner or later. Let's eat first and get through each day one by one. Dustless walked into a restaurant, and casually found a place to sit down. He brought over all the dishes and soon after, he ignored the fighting outside and ate while silently observing. Anyway, it had nothing to do with him. That guy. Natsuki naturally realized that Dustless was trying to take advantage of the situation. She was speechless as she muttered to herself. How many years has he been starving for him to be so good at picking a free meal? No one even reported him. Because of the relationship between these two demons, the people in the store all ran away. Who would care about Dustless? Zhuodi, tear her apart. The golden-haired demon cultivator roared in fury. He was pointing at the black-haired young woman with the silver spear. This woman was none other than Jizhua Shelley. Ao. The dark red horse raised its head and roared towards the sky. It leaped up with its 4 powerful limbs and widely opened its mouth, showing a 180-degree angle. It's useless. As a sword magus from the Lion King organization, how can I lose to low-level beings like you? Jizhua Shelley's eyes shone with a cold light while she threw out the silver spear without hesitation. Boom, boom, boom. Thunderous booms spread out, causing waves that even made the streets squeak. Obviously, the snow cloud wolf had taken over the mountain wind. The curly beast, named Zhuodi, let out a few screams, which sounded extremely human-like. Right after that, a great power burst out from Jizhua Shelley's seemingly weak body. Jizhua Shelley slightly thrust her sword forward, and this majestic curly beast was sent flying away with brute force. Boom, boom, boom. Its enormous body heavily smashed into the surrounding streets, creating a huge pit. Damn it. We kicked an iron board this time. This little girl is so cruel. The 2 demons who had landed on the ground regretted their actions. They looked at Jizhua Shelley, who had a cold face, while trembling in fear. They felt like they had fallen into an ice cave. You 2 will pay for your stupidity. Jizhua Shelley's face turned cold while the sharp light of the snow wolf pierced towards the 2 demons. Phew. 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 As the snow wolf was about to pierce through the 2 demons' bodies, a dark silhouette darted over at an extremely fast speed. That dark silhouette punched towards the snow wolf with his rock-like fists. Boom. 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 The wolf let out a muffled noise, which made Jizhua Shelley's facial expression change even more. Her hands trembled for a few times. If she hadn't been well trained, she might have been injured by the wolf, even though she wasn't the target of the attack. Xiao Guqing's fist was so powerful that Jizhua Shelley almost lost her grip on the snow wolf's spear. They know they're wrong. Xiao Guqing said blandly, "Catch this idiot." The golden-haired young man who had summoned the curly beast said viciously. His eyes were filled with cunning. That young man nodded, then swiftly darted to Xiao Guqing's back. Within 5 seconds, he gripped Xiao Guqing's neck with his arm and took out a sharp dagger. "Throw away the weapon in your hand." The lackey threatened. Xiao Guqing is such an idiot. Although these guys are landed demons, they're not good people. He was too careless. Nangong Natua, who had just arrived, curled her lips and curled her lips. She looked hopeless. Xiao Guqing was indeed not suitable to be a true ancestor. Although this guy is a true ancestor, he's still a layman. Xiao Guqing was just an ordinary student not long ago. He doesn't have the right identity to be a true ancestor yet. Dustless, who had been eating and drinking, also blushed because of Xiao Guqing's behavior. Although this was caused by his carelessness, Xiao Guqing didn't even have the heart to be vigilant at all. He didn't understand that people's hearts were unpredictable. Chapter 1495. Dustless stared at Xiao Guqing with pity and shook his head. This guy was definitely the most useless true ancestor in history, even the weirdest one. This guy is so stupid. These 2 demons don't look like good guys. They're so quick. They must be repeat offenders. Not to mention Wu Chun and Nangong Natsuyu. Jizhua Shelley's face darkened. She was so angry that she stomped her feet. This kid didn't do it on purpose, did he? GMO Shuelai looked at Xiao Guqing suspiciously. Damn it. Xiao Guqing was embarrassed. GMO Shuelai looked at him like he was an idiot. His face turned red, and he felt a burning pain. He wanted to dig a hole and hide. He stared at the blonde young man in anger. Xiao Guqing was speechless. I helped you 2 out of the kindness of my heart, but you bastards repaid my kindness with ingratitude. Not only did you embarrass me, but you also threatened GMO Shuelai. Thinking of this, Xiao Guqing lowered his head in shame, not daring to look at GMO Shuelai in the eyes. The battle between true ancestors is indeed not suitable for me. If the other true ancestors knew that I was captured so easily, they might faint from anger. This is so humiliating. Xiao Guqing sighed in his heart. At the same time, a cold light flashed across his eyes. Although he was captured because of his carelessness, it didn't mean that he would resign himself to death. On the contrary, these two bastards had enraged him as a true ancestor. Pop! 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 Clenching his fists, Xiao Guqing released golden lightning bolts. What's going on? The demon who was holding Xiao Guqing exclaimed. Looking at the ferocious eyes, he felt as if he was being stared at by some ancient beast. Boom! 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 Xiao Guqing released a powerful aura. A strong shockwave pushed back the demon who was holding the blade to his throat. The demon frothed at the mouth and fainted. Barely regained the dignity of a true ancestor. Dustless, Natsuki, and GMO Shuelai murmured. Bastard, how dare you threaten me? Xiao Guqing yelled. Since you want to play so much, have a taste of my fist. Grabbing the corner of the blonde demon's clothes, Xiao Guqing punched him mercilessly. Ka ka ka. A sharp and clear sound rang out, and a bloody tooth protruded from the blonde demon's mouth. After enraging Akatsuki Kogu, he was particularly miserable. Boom boom boom. He was sent flying 20 meters away by Koju's punch, landing right in front of the restaurant where Dustless was eating. Serves you right. Brushing off the dust on his palm, Koju said with a smile. Looks like I don't have to do anything. Seeing this, Nangong Natsuki breathed a sigh of relief. Just as everyone thought that everything would be fine, a sharp beast cry suddenly sounded. Ao ao. Zhua Hoof, the curly beast that had been hit by Jizhua Shelly earlier, raised its head and roared towards the sky once again. You can still stand. Jizhua Shuelai once again assumed a fighting posture. Damn it, his skin is so thick. Koju said with a frown. At the same time, he was also tempted by the loud roar. As the fourth ancestor, he controlled 12 powerful whirlwinds, each of which was invincible and could easily flatten an island. Zhuahoof, come here. The blonde demon youth's face was extremely gloomy. He thought that Koju was an idiot and could easily take him down, but who would have thought that this kid was hiding his strength? He looked at Jizhua Shelly and saw that she was also coldly looking at him, and his neck suddenly shrank. Only when I find a hostage, these guys will hesitate to attack me. The blonde demon youth's eyes swept around and fell on Nangong Natsuki, who was dressed like a gothic loli. His eyes shot out a ferocious light, but then he suddenly thought of something and withdrew his eyes in fear. Am I really going to jail this time? Not even a hostage. The blonde demon youth's face was full of despair. Gulp. Suddenly, the sound of food being eaten came from the side. He instinctively looked over and saw a peerless foodie crazily sweeping the food on the table. His eyes suddenly lit up. This bastard. Does he think that I'm a pushover? Dustless's face darkened. Although his eyes have never left the table, he has been observing the situation outside with his observation hockey. I can't even have a peaceful meal. And what the hell is wrong with this world? First someone came to rob me, and now someone wants to take me as a hostage? Originally, Dustless didn't want to intervene in this boring fight. He planned to leave after eating, but who would have thought that this bastard would think that he was a pushover? Boy, what are you looking at? Come here quickly. The blonde demon youth shouted angrily. He found that Dustless was staring at him, and his eyes were so cold that they stung his skin. Run away, get away from him. Nangong Natsuki reminded. Boy, are you tired of living? Dustless ignored their reminders and coldly said, within 5 seconds, kneel down and kowtow to me 3 times. Then you can get out of here. Is this guy crazy? Koju and the others' faces darkened, thinking that Dustless was simply courting death. What did you say? The blonde demon youth angrily pointed at Dustless and cursed. Zhuoto, tear this boy who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Ao ao. The flaming horse roared a few times and swooped down after receiving the order. Idiot. Dustless was expressionless. In his ears, this was just a boring roar before death, full of desolation. He calmly raised his leg that was covered in a flash of light, and kicked out mercilessly. Light speed kick. The light shot out in a straight line, pointlessly hitting Zhuoto. Ao ao ao. Zhuoto screamed miserably. The powerful force was beyond imagination. In an instant, its huge body was kicked dozens of meters away, followed by a violent explosion of golden light. Even the surrounding street was vaporized. Chapter 1496. That kick. Isn't it a little too powerful? Is he still human? After a long silence, Koju said with a twitching face. Unregistered demon? Jijua Shuelai had a pair of bracelets to prevent her from entering the demon territory, but Wu Qin didn't have any bracelets. In other words, he was an illegal immigrant who snuck into the island. This guy. Nangong Natya's gaze also changed. It was filled with a different meaning. F*ck, I overexerted myself. Dustless frowned. He only wanted to kill the scum with a kick, but he didn't expect it to destroy the street as well. At the same time, he noticed that Natsuki was looking at him in a different way. Do you remember that Koju caused tens of billions of damage when he freed the beast? Dustless was embarrassed. He didn't have a single cent on him. Although the damage wasn't as bad as tens of billions, it was still a few 100 million yen. Right, I can push the blame to someone else. Dustless's eyes lit up. His body glowed with a golden light. He flashed and appeared in front of Koju. Kid, this is all your fault. Grabbing Koju's shoulders with both hands, Dustless angrily said. It's all your fault. If it weren't for your overflowing love, how could this have happened? You even dragged me into this. Hurry up and pay for the mental damage. Huh? Koju looked at Dustless blankly. After a while he refused. Although it was my carelessness, you are the main culprit. Koju stared at Dustless angrily. Was this guy trying to use him as a scapegoat? Shut up, both of you. Natsuki cut in with a stern voice. You disobeyed the laws of Itagami Island. Both of you are at fault here. Especially that guy called Dustless. He is an unregistered demon. How dare he walk around in front of me? This is unforgivable. Nangong Natyu's face was red, and her angry appearance was very cute. She felt that her intelligence had been underestimated by Dustless. It was one thing for an unregistered demon to be moving around under her nose, but he was also causing destruction one after another. This was a naked humiliation. This Natsuyu Nangong is not easy to deal with. Even if you sell me, I won't be worth tens of billions. Dustless felt a headache coming on. Although Natsuki had decided not to pursue the matter, he was now involved in an accident for no reason. He might have to pay a large sum of money. Woo 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 woo. After a while, an ear-piercing and weird siren resounded in the sky. A large number of police cars rushed over from all directions. Groups of police jumped out of the cars and aimed at Dustless and the others with all kinds of firearms. Take all of them away. In her eyes, these people were all criminals, and there was no right or wrong between them. That's good too. Prison food is still food. At least there's a place to stay. Although the environment is a little bad, it's free. No matter what, it's better than sleeping on the streets. Dustless's mutterings almost made Natsuki explode. She had already labeled him as a shipwreck in her heart. I didn't do anything wrong. It was self-defense. Koju and GMO Shuelai were not willing. One of them was a student, and the other was in charge of monitoring the true ancestor. How could they go to prison for no reason? Dustless watched them silently. In any case, none of this had anything to do with him. Little Natsuki, there's no need. Don't use small. She picked up her fan and rudely hit Koju. Natsuki said seriously. Can't you two learn from others? Nangong Nayu pointed at Dustless who was sitting there obediently. This guy is really a jinx. GMO Shuelai helplessly stomped her foot. Her impression of Koju had plummeted. Just like Dustless said, she also thought that it was Koju's fault. If he had not meddled in other people's business, none of this would have happened. Put this on for me. In the carriage where the prisoner was being escorted, a burly policeman walked up to Dustless and took out a special handcuff. It was estimated that it was used to limit magic. However, Dustless did not even look at him. He said coldly, "Get out of my way." What did you say? Hearing this, the policeman pointed his gun at Dustless. The latter just stared at him coldly. The temperature in the carriage dropped 100 times. The policeman trembled. Dustless's piercing stare made his heart jump. It's okay. I'll take care of the three of them. Natsuki waved her hand, indicating that the policeman could leave. compared to Koju and that female student. This guy is too strange. After thinking for a while, Natsuki finally chose to sit beside Dustless. She felt that he was too dangerous. Moreover, his background and identity were mysterious. Although Koju was the fourth true ancestor, he was still her student. Natsuki knew everything about him. As for the beautiful girl with the silver divine spear, she had already vaguely guessed her identity. Although she didn't know her name, she was very familiar with the origin of that spear. On the other hand, Dustless, Natsuki looked at Dustless from the corner of her eyes. She had a special impression of him. Previously, he had killed the curly beast with a single kick. This was enough to prove that Dustless was not ordinary. There was no trace of magic power. It was just pure strength. Is he a psychic? His strength is not bad. If his background is clean, I can use him. Natsuki's eyes flashed. She quickly came to a decision. She was certain that Dustless was a human. In this world where the true ancestors were rampant, it would not be wrong to rope in a few powerful humans. After all, the true ancestors were vampires and humans were still humans. Chapter 1497. This guy. Dustless frowned slightly. He had also noticed Natsuya's strange behavior. Oi, pervert. Why are you so close to me? People are watching, don't even think about messing around. Dustless pointed at Koju and Jijua Shelly with a fake smile. Pervert. Koju and Jijua Shelly both had weird looks on their faces, especially Koju's. Sometimes his face would darken, and sometimes it would be filled with evil. The corners of Natsuya's mouth twitched violently as she tried her best to control her anger. If you dare to spread rumors again, I promise you will never see the sun again in your life. Natsuya stared at Dustless fiercely and warned. Do not doubt my identity. You are not a local, are you? I can. Natsuya made a throat-cutting gesture and showed an evil look on her face. This guy had such a nasty mouth. You want to detain me illegally? Hearing her, Dustless blinked his bright eyes. What he said next almost made Natsuya suffocate. Then destroying your prison is also self-defense, right? Dustless made a defensive face. These people. Jijua Shelly's eyes kept darting around, staring at the three people. Finally, she fixed her eyes on Dustless. That kick of his just now was not normal. Such a person should not be unknown. Jijua Shelly lowered her head and thought. She couldn't help but be curious about Dustless's identity. She was able to kick the whirlwind beast with a single kick. Even she could not do it so casually, and she did not use any weapons. This guy is to blame. Staring at Dustless with a gloomy face, Koju looked like an angry wife. He was caught for no reason. Although he was partly responsible, he still wanted to push the blame to Dustless. This guy could have just taught the others a lesson. Why did he have to make such a big fuss? What made Koju want to vomit blood was that Dustless had made such a big fuss. Not only did he get himself caught, but he also wanted Koju to compensate him for the mental damage. This was too much. What are you looking at? Dustless saw Koju's fiery eyes and said with disdain. If I were you, I would find a piece of tofu and kill myself. You're so pitifully weak. That's because I don't want to deal with them, Koju retorted. As a true ancestor, he had the right to be arrogant. Although he was still a dabbler, a true ancestor was still a true ancestor. There were only 4 of them in the entire world. Thus, existences like the true ancestor were almost deified and called invincible by the world. Really? Hearing this, Dustless looked at Koju mockingly and said, I wonder who became someone's captive and even threatened this young lady. The young lady Dustless mentioned was naturally Jijua Shelly. But then again, Nangong Yuna suddenly interjected. How do you know Koju is a vampire? Natsuki stared at Dustless suspiciously. Koju definitely wouldn't reveal his identity as a vampire, so how did Dustless find out? Hearing this, Dustless was stunned. He opened his mouth but was speechless. He knew Koju was a vampire, and the 4th true ancestor at that. Of course, it was because he had transmigrated. After a few seconds of silence, Dustless explained. I've seen this guy a few times before. He's always looking at women's buttocks with shifty eyes, and he often has nosebleeds. It's very similar to vampires. They get excited when they see a woman's buttocks. Bullshit. Koju roared, unable to contain his anger. Pervert. Jijwa face was full of disgust. She left Koju's side and sat in the empty seat next to Dustless and Natsuki. Then, she thought of her mission and a trace of pain flashed through her eyes. Koju's face turned green when he saw Jijwa action. Although this explanation is far-fetched, vampires have this kind of characteristic. Natsuki's eyes were full of suspicion. In fact, Jijwa had also noticed Koju's strange fetish. Although it was unavoidable under certain circumstances, it was still annoying to stare at someone's buttocks or breasts. We're here. Get out of the car. The car stopped, and Natsuki got out first. She led Dustless and the others into a special building. There was a sign that said Special Region Police Force. Are they really going to interrogate us? Dustless frowned and followed them in. However, he soon regretted it. Koju was indeed the fourth true ancestor. He just asked some harmless questions and left unscathed. Jijwa did the same. Therefore, there was only Dustless and Natsuki in the large interrogation room. This is not fair. Dustless saw Koju's back through the tempered glass. He was furious. Wasn't that kid just the fourth true ancestor? Do you know why they left so quickly? Natsuki calmly sipped her black tea. Privileged dog. Dustless glanced at Xiao Guqing with his sharp eyes and snorted. Privileged dogs. Natsuki nodded elegantly and said, "That's right, both of them do have special privileges. After all, their status is different from ordinary people, so some special privileges are necessary." Pedantic. They are just true ancestors. Dustless looked down on her. For others, true ancestors were unreachable, but for him they were nothing. Dustless had fought countless enemies who were stronger than true ancestors. Then do you want some privileges? Nangong Natsuki narrowed her eyes and asked like a cunning fox. Chapter 1498. Wu Chen looked at Nangong Nayu in surprise. He naturally understood what she meant. What kind of person could have such a privilege? Of course, it was his own people. In other words, he could join Itagami Island. Become Koju's follower? Dustless's body trembled. He knew that Itagami Island was the headquarters of Akatsuki Empire. In the future, it would expand by 100 times. Koju should be my follower. Dustless shook his head and took a deep breath. I can join, but I have a condition. Join? Natsuki stared at Dustless. Did this idiot think he was joining a terrorist organization? Let's hear it. Natsuki took a sip of her tea and said, "As long as it's not too much, I can agree." It's not too much. Dustless didn't mince his words. I need a suitable house. That's all. With his strength, he could live in the open, but every time Dustless met someone who looked at him like he was a beggar, he felt uncomfortable. Is there something wrong with my ears? Natsuki muttered. Are you sure you only want a house? If I agree to such a simple condition, you will be a magician from now on. Natsuki could make the decision for such a small matter. Speaking of which, Natsuki suddenly remembered Dustless's ability and asked, "Is that light element magic you're an expert in?" Magic? I don't know that kind of thing. You can think of me as a psychic, Dustless said. If there's nothing else, please arrange a place for me to stay. I need to rest. Dustless had been living in the open since he came to this world. He never felt the warmth of home. Watch your tone. From now on, I'm your boss. Nangong Natsuki said unhappily. Her tone was extremely arrogant as she said complacently, "Be careful or I'll deduct your salary." This girl. Hearing this, Dustless didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He could only change the topic. What's my address? Don't worry, I have a mission for you. Natsuki waved her hand and wisely said, You have met Koju before, right? Your task in the future is to keep an eye on him. The house I gave you is near his house. Monitor him? The corner of Dustless's mouth twitched, and he said unhappily, What's the reason? Even though he knew that Koju was the fourth true ancestor, Dustless still wanted to make things difficult for Natsuki. Monitoring someone was fine, but there had to be a reason. He is the fourth true ancestor. Natsuyu revealed Koju's identity without any shame. This guy isn't hesitant at all when it's time to sell out his teammates. Dustless could already see Koju's constipated face after he found out the truth. He could understand Natsuki's order to keep an eye on Koju. As a magical practitioner, it was her duty to protect this city. The fourth true ancestor was the most unstable factor, so it was understandable that he would be monitored. Gosh, Koju is going to become a national treasure. Dustless was quite jealous of this kid. The Lion King organization wanted to monitor Koju, and even gave him a future princess. Even though Jijua Shelly was hostile to Koju because of him, she still had to follow her orders and continue monitoring Koju. And now Dustless had to monitor Koju as well, so he was speechless. Here are the keys. Natsuki threw a bunch of keys to Dustless and said seriously, "But the house you live in is too big, and someone is renting it. You also have a roommate. Do you have to be like this? You can't even afford a house? What kind of crappy organization is this? Just close down," Dustless said unhappily. "Being a hired thug is the fastest way to make money. There's nothing we can do about it. We have limited funds, so you have to be considerate of our organization." Natsuki's expression was normal. "Only this once. Don't do it again. Hurry up and take me there." Dustless didn't want to talk nonsense. Staying in this kind of stuffy environment made him uncomfortable. Although he wasn't used to living with other people, it was better than living outside. "Great." Natsuki smiled and nodded, and then left with Dustless. In an apartment that was not bad. "That's Koju's house." Natsuki pointed at the house next door, which had the word Koju on it. "Your mission from now on is to monitor Koju. I'll watch him at school, and you'll watch his house. That way, I can rest assured," Natsuki said with a relaxed expression. "This is your room. Of course your roommate is there too." Natsuki pointed at the door and said, "I have classes tomorrow. You can go in by yourself." It's about the same as the Lion King organization. Dustless looked at Natsuki's disappearing figure and muttered to himself. When he was about to knock on the door, he suddenly paused. "Why would I knock when I have the key? Stupid." Creak. With a creak, the door was gently pushed open by Dustless. When he was about to check the room, Dustless was shocked by what he saw. A naked young girl was wearing clothes, and her hair was still wet. She seemed to have just taken a shower. Dustless also found that she was unexpectedly familiar. "Miss Jijua, why are you here? Did you go to the wrong room?" Jijua Shelly, who was staring at Wu Chen in a daze, was also staring at him in a daze. Could it be, this guy is my roommate? Dustless's face twitched. He suddenly found that the key in Jijua Shelly's sailor suit was exactly the same as his. Obviously, Jijua Shelly was also the owner of this apartment. Chapter 1499. Dustless was stunned, and he couldn't help but curse Natsuki in his mind. That kid must have done it on purpose. If I get the chance, I will definitely spank her ass. At the same time, Dustless was also depressed. Natsuki was obviously using her power to avenge a personal grudge. She must have known that Jijua Shelly was her tenant. However, Natsuki didn't mention it. Obviously, she was doing it on purpose. Dirty. Jijua Shelly's face blushed. A silver spear appeared in her hand, and she thrust it towards Jijua Shelly mercilessly. This spear is evil and it's famous. It's even more famous than that fake ancestor. I heard that it can even kill immortal ancestors. But I am not a real ancestor. Facing the sharp light of the snow cloud wolf, Dustless stood still like a statue. Busashoko hardening. Dustless murmured in his mind. His abdomen turned dark, and his skin was even harder than diamonds. Clang, clang, clang. A loud noise spread out, and Jijua Shelly's arm went numb. How is this possible? It didn't pierce through this guy? Although I was trying to scare him and didn't use all my power, the power of the snow cloud wolf is beyond doubt. It can't even pierce through his skin? Isn't this a little too outrageous? Jijua Shelly stared at Wu Chen in shock, while waves of shock rose in her heart. This spear is the 7th type of assault demon machine gun, Snow Cloud Wolf. It is a secret weapon developed by the Lion King organization to fight against the demons. The spell engraved on the Snow Cloud Wolf is called Godhead Vibration Wave Spell. It can nullify any magic power, and it can cut through any protective screen. It is the only weapon successfully used by the Lion King organization to fight against the demons. Recalling the origin of the spear, Dustless explained in a bland tone. To some extent, this spear can kill magicians and demons and even immortal ancestors. No, it used to be like this, but I don't think so anymore. Jijua Shelley suddenly shook her head, took a deep look at Dustless and said, "Aren't you the one who was hit by the snow cloud wolf?" A wisp of an arc appeared on the corners of Wu Chen's mouth when he heard this, and he explained, "This is understandable. Nothing is absolute. Perhaps I'm that special case." Dustless was neither a real ancestor nor a magician, so the snow cloud wolf was not useful to him. "Let me introduce myself. I am Dustless. From now on, I will be your roommate." Shaking the key in his hand, Dustless, he tried his best to maintain a gentle look. "I don't feel at ease having a roommate like you. You don't even make a sound when you walk. And, why didn't you knock on the door?" Jijua Shuelai asked in an unfriendly manner. She was very alert towards Wu Chen. "Knock. This is my home. Do I need to knock on the door?" Wu Chen asked sharply. Meanwhile, he awkwardly glanced at Jijua Shelley and said, "That's not important." Mississippi Jijua Shelley, before asking these boring questions, "Can you put on your clothes first?" Whoosh! Right at this moment, a faint breeze blew over. Jijua Shelley, who was barely clothed, shivered, and her face instantly turned as red as a ripe apple. "It's all your fault." Jijua Shelley glared at Dustless with her sharp eyes, then decisively closed the door. It seemed that she was going to put on her clothes. Jijua Shelley then heard an ear-piercing scream. She was probably cursing Dustless. "He's surprisingly slow, but he's ridiculously sharp when it comes to combat." Dustless shook his head, leaned against the wall, and glanced at Koju's house. A strange light flashed across his eyes. "Koju seems to have a sister called Koju. Koju seems to have Agurola living in her body," said Jijua Shelley. "If only I had come here a few years earlier, that bastard Koju would have taken advantage of me." While sighing, Jijua cursed Koju. "Koju is such a loser, but good things always happen to him. God is so unfair." What annoyed Dustless the most was that he had to keep an eye on Koju. Creak. At the same time, the closed door suddenly opened. Jijua Shelley came into Jijua Shelley's sight. "If you dare to tell anyone about what happened just now, I will kill you," said the wolf, pointing at Dustless's chin. "And how do you know who I am?" "We are in the same line of work. I am an attack mage in the Special Regions Police Force. Although I don't know you, everyone knows about your snow wolf." Dustless walked over Jijua Shelley's shoulder and into the living room. He nodded slightly. The living room was not big, but it was clean. There were 2 bedrooms, one for Jijua Shelley, and the other for Dustless. "You are an attack mage?" Hearing this, Jijua Shelley stared at Dustless in surprise, but she didn't ask any further. She would find out later when she went back to the Lion King organization. "Anyway, we have the same mission, to keep an eye on Koju, the 4th true ancestor." Dustless put on a sad face and asked for help. "Miss Jijua, how about we share information? Can you tell me anything useful?" asked Jijua Shelley. "Well," Dustless rolled his eyes. "What can I tell you? Nothing. He had just accepted this job." "Well, I have been following Koju. That guy is really promiscuous. Not only does he stare at women's butts every day, he is also delusional, perverted, and scumbag. You have to be careful of that perverted vampire. Stay away from Koju, especially when he drinks your blood. He won't even let his own sister go. He won't even let his own sister go." Jijua Shelley's eyes popped out. She was shocked by Dustless's news. Then she yelled furiously, "I will kill that scumbag." Chapter 1500. Looking at Jijua Shelley, Dustless was shocked. Jijua Shelley had been releasing an oppressive vibe. Obviously, she was not just talking about it. This was the real deal. Cough, cough, cough. "Wait." Jijua Shelley walked out of the room with the wolf in her hand. Dustless hurriedly pulled her back. Although he hated Koju as well, that guy was not dead yet. He just needed to stir up some trouble and break the relationship between Jijua Shelly and Koju. Why are you pulling me back? Jijua Shelly asked unhappily. You have no evidence. Without evidence, you are killing innocent people. Do you understand? You are disregarding human lives. As the saying goes, a thief takes the stolen goods. When his true colors are exposed, it won't be too late for you to teach him a lesson. If you kill Koju for no reason, you won't be able to explain it to the Lion King organization. Are you willing to give up your youth for a scum? There was a saying that listening to a wise man was better than reading books for 10 years. Hearing this, Jijua Shelly suddenly felt enlightened and immediately nodded. It would be a great loss for her to sacrifice herself for a scum. What do you want? Why did you encourage me to kill Koju? After a while, she stared at Wu Chun with a suspicious look in her eyes. Jijua Shelly was not a 3-year-old child. She had wanted to kill Xiao Guqing just now out of anger, but now, she had sensed a conspiracy. This girl is hard to fool. Dustless was confused. He glanced at Jijua Shelly's clear eyes and continued. Instigate? It was complete nonsense. Don't forget that I am also a watcher of Koju. This guy should not have appeared in the world. His appearance might break the balance of the Holy Realm Treaty, and the human race might fall into an abyss of suffering again. If Koju is evil, we don't need to protect him. We just need to kill him. But now he is a pervert, which is the opposite of what a true ancestor should be like. Maybe he will do something even worse in the future. This guy. Hearing this, Ji Shuelai frowned slightly. She also felt that what Dustless said made sense, but when these words came out of Dustless's mouth, it sounded as if he was thinking for the whole world, which made her feel uncomfortable. All in all, Miss GMO, you have to be careful of Koju, Dustless reminded her again. He is a true ancestor, one of the most powerful beings on this planet. Of course, if I decide that he is not suitable for the true ancestor, or if he threatens the survival of humanity, I will kill him without hesitation. Jijua Shuelai said with a pair of blazing eyes. This was her mission. Naive. Hearing this, Dustless silently shook his head. In fact, Jijua Shelly didn't send Xiao Guqing to keep an eye on Jijua Shelly. Instead, the Lion King organization wanted Jijua Shelly to become Xiao Guqing's partner. Jijua Shelly might not have realized this herself, and besides, Akatsuki Koju wasn't the one who had been keeping an eye on Jijua Shelly. How sad. Recalling Jijua Shelly's experience, Dustless couldn't help but feel pity for her. Jijua Shelly was sent away like a commodity, and she didn't even know about it. At least in Dustless's eyes, her life was extremely miserable. Boom 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 boom. Suddenly, a blazing fire rose from the horizon, and the violent vibration could be felt from a few hundred meters away. It was like an earthquake, and even the huge Itagami Island trembled a few times. This is bad. Through the window, looking at the blazing fire in the distant horizon, Wu Chen's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. Could it be that Western European idiot who came here for the winner's right arm? But in the end he was defeated by Koju. Dustless murmured to himself. Although his voice was low, Jijua Shelly still heard a few words. Do you know who it is? Come with me. Jijua Shelly didn't care whether Dustless agreed or not. She grabbed his collar and jumped out of the window. Are you out of your mind? Dustless stared at Jijua Shelly in confusion. Sometimes, this girl was like a bandit. She didn't care about other people's feelings at all. This was a few floors high, and if she didn't pay attention, she would fall to her death. Bang! Jijua Shelly and Dustless finally landed on the ground. But what surprised her was that she and Dustless didn't fall to the ground. Instead, they were floating in the air. You can fly? Jijua Shelly looked at Dustless in surprise. Her face blushed slightly. She was held in Dustless's arms, and because they were so close, she could even smell Dustless's scent. Is this guy a man or a woman? It's the first time I've heard that a man can smell good. Jijua Shelly's face turned even redder, and she struggled even harder. You don't want to fall either, do you? Pointing at the ground, Dustless said in a bland tone. If you keep moving, I will throw you into the water. You. Jijua Shelly threw an annoyed glance at Dustless, then angrily turned her head away. If you want to get there as soon as possible, don't move. If you move too slowly, you'll miss the opportunity, Dustless explained in a low voice. He could clearly sense that Jijua Shelley's resistance had become weaker. Swish, 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 swish. Right after that, a bright beam of light flashed across the sky, moving at an unimaginable speed. It was so fast that human eyes couldn't even see it clearly. Many people even thought that it was a shooting star. Of course, there were also some people with sharp eyes. Dustless, you can fly? A voice that was as surprised as Jijua Shelley's voice was heard. Silver slightly lowered his head and saw Natsuki Nangong and Xiao Guqing. Wasn't this guy at home just now? Silver glanced at Xiao Guqing and found that Dustless had landed safely on the ground. Jijua Shelley hurriedly struggled out of Dustless's arms. She was already embarrassed, and now, with 2 more people watching, she felt even more embarrassed. Chapter 1501. He can fly? Koju was also shocked and looked at Dustless with jealousy. He, a grand true ancestor, still needed to walk, but a mere mortal like Dustless was playing with technology, flying. What are you two doing here? Nangong Natuyu asked with a frown. My task is to keep an eye on the 4th true ancestor. Jijua Shelley said bluntly. What about you? Natsuki glanced at Dustless. She was the one who had sent Dustless to monitor Koju. This little girl wanted to see the fireworks and forced me to bring her here. Originally, I wasn't interested in this kind of thing. Just think of it as me coming here for a vacation. Dustless shrugged and said casually. Traveling? Natsuki almost fainted from anger. She didn't know why, but whenever she was in the same space as Dustless, she always felt uncomfortable. Wherever she went, she felt uncomfortable. This fellow was simply too infuriating. Aolo aolo aolo. Heart-wrenching screams filled the sky, causing everyone's legs to go cold, not daring to take another step forward. Hurry up, Koju! Hearing the miserable screams, Natsuya impatiently grabbed Koju's clothes and rushed to the scene. Jijua and Shelley followed closely behind her. Only Dustless was lazily walking back and forth. Idiot, you'll be walking right into a trap if you go. Dustless couldn't help but shake his head. That girl called Asterudi had some skill. Koju hadn't truly sucked blood yet, so he would have a hard time against her. Ao 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 ao. The horrifying screams were getting closer and closer, and at the same time, the violent tremors were getting clearer and clearer. In a trance, Dustless could even see Asteludi's strange curly beast, Rose's fingertips. She was devouring a huge wild horse. An artificial life form that can devour curly beasts. That's rare. Dustless sighed with emotion. His eye technique was peerless, and as such, his vision was much clearer than Koju and the others. Humph. An artificial life that could devour curly beasts? Do you think we're kids? Koju turned his head and asked in an unfriendly tone. His eyes were clearly saying, don't even think about treating me like an idiot again. It's coming. Since Koju was facing him, he didn't pay attention to Dustless's words. Get away from Koju, Nangong Natsuyu loudly warned. At the same time, she had already left. Bang bang bang. With a loud explosion, Koju was sent flying and disappeared without a trace. How pitiful. Even this guy can sit on the true ancestor's seat. I feel like I'm a god, Dustless complained. This was the first time he was cursing the heavens for being unfair. Good cabbages were all eaten by pigs. Damn it. 100 meters away, Koju was lying miserably in the ruins. His body was covered in wounds, and he grimaced in pain. And the one who launched the attack was the Asterudi Dustless had mentioned before. This guy is really a devouring curly beast. Jijua Shelley gasped in disbelief. This was the first time he had seen such an unbelievable scene. Nangong Natsuyu was also surprised, but she was much calmer. Her gem-like eyes looked at the blurry silhouette in the darkness. Her tone was filled with hostility. Dustless, what are you waiting for? Capture him for me, Nangong Natsuyu ordered sternly. This is our mission. As the attack mages of Itagami Island, we must capture this troublesome person. Capture him now. Ha! Dustless was stunned. He looked at Nangong Natsuyu in disbelief and curled his lips. Really, if I knew that attack mages were so busy, I would have rejected this job. You want to capture me? You're just a nameless junior? The blonde man said. Your true ancestor was defeated and you want to defeat me? You're too naive. Boom 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 boom. At the same time, a battle broke out on the other side. Allah Allah Allah. That transfer student from the middle division is quite strong. He's more trustworthy than a certain true ancestor. Nangong Natsuyu glanced at Koju and teased. Shut up. It's none of your business. Koju said indignantly. As a true ancestor, there was a reason why he was so weak. Other than the fact that he had only been a true ancestor for a short period of time. Another reason was that he had not sucked blood yet. Fourth true ancestor. Open your eyes and take a good look. On Dustless's side, both sides were ready to fight. Nangong Natsuyu and Koju also looked over. They were curious about Dustless's strength. I'm an armed exorcist from Lorden Lingjia. I'm a monk from the Western European Church. My name is Rudolf Ostak. I came to visit Itagami Island. My goal is to destroy this island and take back my holy relic. After saying that, Rudolf Ostak took out his huge battle axe. Nameless Junior, quickly take out your weapon and fight me. Ostak's face was filled with arrogance as he skillfully brandished his battle axe, which emitted a chilling light. Forget about the weapon. Use it yourself. You're already so old, but you're still wearing such heavy armor and holding such a heavy axe. You're really strong, old man. Slightly moving his sore shoulders, Wu Qin said lazily. However, I've always respected the old and loved the young. This time, I'll use my bare hands to deal with you. If I use a sword, I'm afraid others will say that I'm bullying you. Bastard, are you looking down on me? Ostak was furious. Wu Qin was looking down on him. He wanted to fight him with his bare hands. He was treating him like Cha-Cha. Isn't this a bit too much? Nangong Natsuyu was worried. Her opponent was not a nobody. He was an annihilator from the Western European Church. Chapter 1502. An Eastern European monk? Natsuki Nangong sighed. She already knew what this annihilator was after. The relic of the Holy One. It was the relic of the Eastern European Church. And it was not impossible to take it. After all, it belonged to someone else. However, this method was too extreme, and Natsuki Nangong would not accept it. Rudolf Ostak, who was holding the giant axe, roared in excitement. His face was filled with hysteria, and there were even tears at the corners of his eyes. In a trance, he seemed to have seen himself retrieving the Holy One's right wrist. I'm sorry. Although I sympathize with the painful experience of your church, I'm still working in this city. If you are willing to repent, I don't mind giving you a way out. Dustless said with a compassionate face. Repent? What a joke. Rudolf Ostak was infuriated by Chen Fan's words. His golden hair stood on end like a raging lion. When Itinerant God Island was first built, there was no suitable material to replace it. That guy called Itinerant God Qianluo eventually targeted the relic of my church. Rudolf Ostak became even more crazed and terrifying as he spoke. A brainwashed idiot. Dustless did not want to listen to his nonsense. He interrupted him directly. If negotiation is useless, then please disappear from my sight forever. Whoosh. Whoosh. The huge heavy axe attacked with full force, mercilessly chopping towards Wu Chen's head. Weak. Dustless did not move. He looked at the black axe indifferently. He did not make any defensive movements. It seemed like he was really going to block the axe that was bigger than him with his bare hands. Idiot. Koju cursed in his mind. He immediately turned around as if he did not want to see Dustless's miserable appearance. After all, he was just an ordinary student who had become a true ancestor not long ago. Clang. 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 A loud shockwave spread out slowly, followed by a strong wind. Due to the strength of the shockwave, Koju was caught off guard and was pushed back by the wind. Plop! Koju slipped and lost his balance. He fell to the ground on his butt. Why is the wind blowing all of a sudden? Koju was confused. He looked at Dustless and was shocked by what he saw. When the black Greytax was only an inch away from Dustless's head, a delicate arm easily grabbed the black Greytax that was larger than a person. He was only a little bit away from breaking Dustless's head. Damn it. Rudolf Ostak was furious. He was so close, but he didn't have the strength to continue controlling the giant axe. That small hand, which was thinner than a woman's, contained a great amount of strength. Gulp. Koju felt a lump in his throat. He had previously thought that Dustless was a light magus, but now it seemed that he was completely wrong. This guy's strength and body were ridiculously tough, like a diamond. Some things it's time to reconsider. Koju isn't suitable for the true ancestor class. Perhaps someone can do it better than him. Nangong Natsuya's eyes flashed with wisdom. Although she was also shocked by Dustless's strength, she was much more shrewd than Koju. No one noticed it. Nangong Nayu's eyes shone with a strange light. The way she looked at Dustless changed subtly. Who the hell are you? Rudolf Ostak asked in fear. This guy's body didn't leak any mana, and when he attacked, there were no special energy fluctuations. He was almost the same as an ordinary person. But this was the strangest thing. How could an ordinary person grab his great axe with their bare hands? Crack. Crack. A crisp sound suddenly rang out. Rudolf Ostak was startled at first, but he suddenly felt that his great axe was much lighter than usual. He opened his eyes wide in curiosity. Crack. Crack. The great axe that was larger than a person was continuously broken into pieces. Dustless had used his wrist strength to crush Rudolf Ostak's beloved weapon. Bastard. Regaining his senses, Rudolf Ostak glared at Dustless. He vented all his anger on Dustless, and his fist that was as large as a human's head smashed towards him. Poochie. With a flash of a blade, Dustless chopped off Rudolf's right arm. Ah! Rudolf Ostak let out a miserable howl. Blood flowed out of his mouth, and the intense pain made him roll on the ground in agony. This way, you should be more obedient, Dustless said coldly. His tone wasn't that cold, but it made people feel a chill that went deep into their soul. Well done. Patting Dustless's shoulder, Natsuya gave him an expression that said, as expected of my little brother. Immediately, a large group of uniformed police rushed over and surrounded Ostak. Speaking of which, what about that artificial life? Sooner or later, his life will be devoured by the beast inside his body. Dustless's eyes flashed with a strange light. He frowned and said, why don't I? Although she was used, she has already committed a crime. I have decided to keep her by my side and observe her for 3 years. It just so happens that I am lacking a maid. Natsuya waved her lace fan and spoke before Dustless. The reason why she became a maid is more important. TSK. This is an interesting discovery. I didn't expect that Dustless to be so strong. I thought he was just an ordinary police officer, but it seems that I was wrong. That kind of terrifying strength. I don't think there are many people who can do it as easily as him. A mysterious voice sounded under the night sky, and then he silently blended into the darkness. Chapter 1503. Who is that? Although the eavesdropping shadow concealed himself very cleverly, and his aura was so weak that it could be ignored, Natsuki, who was focused on Rudolf Ostak, didn't notice him. However, Dustless, who was listening to everything, saw everything clearly. It seems to be Motoki Yase, who was monitoring Koju City. Using his eye power, Chun Fan was able to see everything a few kilometers away. Motoki Yase's blurry face gradually became clearer. He probably went to inform the Lion King organization. Dustless was too lazy to stop him. There was no such thing as an impenetrable wall in this world. What would be exposed sooner or later. In any case, with Natsuki Nangong protecting him, Dustless had nothing to worry about. At this moment, Rudolf Ostak seemed to have taken a stimulant. His entire body erupted with powerful strength. Even though one of his arms had been chopped off by Dustless, his strength could not be ignored. Bang bang bang. Even though there were 6 or 7 of them, they still couldn't suppress Rudolf Ostak. His overwhelming strength easily sent the SWAT officers flying. He even took advantage of the situation to snatch a submachine gun. Ha 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 ha. Even if I die, I'll drag you down with me. Rudolf Ostak laughed maniacally. and then pulled the trigger of his submachine gun. A bunch of idiots. You can't even keep an eye on a criminal. Natsuki had no choice but to find a place to hide. Dense bullets rained down on Dustless like falling snow. The submachine gun spat out a fire snake that was aimed at Dustless without shifting its target. Da-da-da-da-da. Dustless's body was beaten into a hornet's nest. There were at least hundreds of holes in his body. Damn bastard, fall down for me. Hurry up and fall down for me. Why don't you fall down? You have to fall down for me. Rudolf Ostaka's eyes were bloodshot. He kept shooting at Wu Chen's body, but the effect was negligible. His harvest was minimal. Dustless was beaten to a pulp. He didn't even have a scratch on him. The worst thing was that his eyes were lazy. He looked as if he was about to fall asleep. Bastard. Rudolf Ostak was so depressed that he wanted to vomit blood. You should at least be a little more professional. You should understand that you are being shot by a machine gun. You shouldn't look like a sleepy worm. Kojo-kun, hurry up and come out. I saw you and Natsuki Nangong-sensei coming out. In the abandoned depressing factory, there was suddenly a rather beautiful sound of nature. Wu Chen bowed her head and pondered. She was somewhat familiar with this strange sound. Oh, it's Naga. Natsuki Nangong clenched her fists. She didn't expect Xiao Nagisa to appear at this time. Ha 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 ha. It's not bad to have someone die with me. Ostak was completely haunted. Dustless Ostak couldn't kill him. He could only aim at Naga. The gun that was dead silent once again spat out fire. Da-da-da-da-da. A series of bullets were fired in Naga's direction. However, this scene only lasted for a blink of an eye. Puchi. A ray of golden light jumped out from Dustless's fingertip. Ostaka's head fell to the ground like a watermelon. Naga, how are you feeling? Kojo heard Naga's voice and rushed over like lightning. He looked at Naga nervously. He only let out a sigh of relief when he was sure that she was fine. Something's not right. Even though I killed Ostak right away, Xiao Nagisa should have been killed before he did. Yet he's still alive. That's strange. Dustless walked to the place where Naga appeared. He noticed that the surrounding walls had obvious traces of ice. The ice layer was still very smooth. It was probably just thawed recently. Interesting. Picking up the bullets on the ground, Dustless's eyes flashed with a strange light. You noticed it too? Natsuki Nangong appeared behind Dustless without a sound. What do you mean I noticed it too? Don't tell me you think I'm a newbie? Dustless rolled his eyes at Natsuki Nangong. He handed her a few defrosted eggshells and analyzed. Naga was lucky enough to die because of these ice cubes. Even though it's just my guess, the one who took over Naga's body just now should be Agrora. Natsuki Nangong stared at Dustless expressionlessly. After a while she replied, You know more than I think. Sometimes you know things that even I don't know. Young man, don't you know that in this world, the more you know about things that you shouldn't know, the faster you will die? A cold and arrogant voice with a hint of playfulness came from behind. Then the surrounding temperature suddenly dropped. A bone-piercing chill and killing intent engulfed Dustless. Dustless turned around to look at the mysterious newcomer. There was no doubt that she was Naga, but her personality and temperament were completely different. The Naga in front of him gave off an unusually cold feeling. It was the complete opposite of her usual warm personality. An incredible person has come. Really, I thought that today was just a trivial matter. Who would have thought that so many unrelated things would appear? Natsuki Nangong sighed. She looked at Naga with caution. Dustless was much calmer. He glanced at Naga Koju. That bastard was actually knocked unconscious. Naga Koju is indeed a hopeless idiot. Let's put Naga Koju aside for now. Before I say anything, is it more appropriate to call you Naga or the fourth true ancestor Agrora? Chapter 1504. A faint ripple finally appeared on Xiao Nagisa's unwavering face, but it disappeared so quickly that neither Dustless nor Nangong Natsuyu was able to catch that brief moment. What's the matter? Wasting other people's time is a crime. Dustless spoke casually and even rudely to the fourth true ancestor, Agrora. You. Nangong Natsuyu's face twitched as she glanced at Dustless. She had a feeling that this guy would kill her one day. However, she could also see that something was fishy. It should be because of the fourth true ancestor. His consciousness has taken over Xiao Nagisa's body. Nangong Natsuyu frowned and speculated. Why did he suddenly appear? Could it be a threat to us? While Nangong Natsuyu was lost in her thoughts, Dustless was also in deep thought. However, unlike Nangong Natsuyu, Dustless didn't feel any fear when facing a true ancestor. He was as calm as still water, and more than that, he was curious. A life form that was artificially created. Yet he was afraid that she would ruin his reputation. Nothing, Xiao Nagisa, no, Agrora said in an extremely calm tone. I'm just curious. However, there are some things that are better left unknown. I don't want that young man to understand what happened today. That young man? Xiao Guqing? That's right. Occupying someone else's sister's body is a bad image. Dustless nodded in agreement. However, Dustless didn't feel the same way. He was still planning to seduce someone else's sister, so he would inevitably offend Agrora. And you? Agrora looked at Dustless coldly, and her cold tone remained arrogant. If you have any unrealistic thoughts, I advise you to extinguish them as soon as possible. This guy, hearing this, Dustless frowned and thought to himself, does she really think that the true ancestor is invincible? In the end, she's just a created life form. I don't understand what you mean by unrealistic thoughts. If you can, you better say it clearly. I'm not good at thinking, Dustless said expressionlessly. Why did you approach Akatsuki Koju? After saying this, Agrora looked at Natsuki Nangong. His meaning was self-evident. He had completely ignored Dustless's existence. So that's how it is. This guy probably thinks that Natsuki has been using Koju all this time. Dustless suddenly understood. Natsuki Nangong was dragging Koju everywhere to put out fires. It was indeed dangerous. Today, for example, Agrora clearly knew the identity of the fourth true ancestor, and knew that he had never sucked blood before. Yet he still asked Agrora to come over and help. Looks like it has nothing to do with me. But this guy's tone is really annoying. Dustless slandered Agurola inwardly as he swept a glance at him. Boom boom boom. Right at this moment, when Dustless thought that it had nothing to do with him, a blue light swept over and locked onto Dustless, who had let down his guard. And the attacker was precisely Agrora. That scheming B***TCH, attacking as soon as he said so. While Dustless was cursing, a golden light flashed on the surface of his skin. He knew that the monster emitting the azure ray of light was the 12th true ancestor, the Enchantress's azure ice. Kinsusanu. His expression turned cold, and the vigorous chakra in his body erupted. A huge monster instantly reinforced Dustless's head. Ka. Kinsusanu suddenly trembled violently. Then a large amount of cold mist inexplicably appeared in the surroundings. A large number of ice blocks formed on the surface of Kinsusanu. But Dustless inside was unscathed. No wonder you dared to provoke a true ancestor. With this kind of strength, you are indeed qualified. Looking at the defrosted Kinsusanu, although the surface was filled with frost and ice, Dustless's expression was normal. He was not affected at all. Dustless smiled but did not say anything. To the people of this world, a true ancestor was the most powerful kind. This kind of concept was deeply ingrained. Without the Sanctuary Treaty, perhaps the human race would have already been annihilated. However, the concept of a true ancestor being invincible and invincible couldn't be applied to Dustless. Ka. Another sound of ice forming could be heard. However, this time it wasn't freezing but shattering. It can't freeze him? This voice was filled with disbelief. Even Natsuki's eyes were wide open. Her worldview was somewhat confused. Could it be that there was a human in this world that could rival a true ancestor? She couldn't help but feel excited. All along, humans and vampires seemed to be harmonious, but in reality, it was the opposite. A few decades ago, there was even a war. Strange, it doesn't seem to be magic power. Agurola asked, somewhat puzzled. Looking at that frightening appearance, she couldn't help but be somewhat alarmed. She unexpectedly felt a trace of fatal oppression. It was hard to imagine that a human could actually contend against a true ancestor. Even if she wasn't complete now, The shock it brought was indescribable. In particular, this strange monster in front of her made her feel a sense of threat. It's really strange. Her blood must be very delicious, right? Suddenly, this thought appeared in Aurora's mind. The more powerful a person was, the more delicious her blood would be. Kensusunu condense. Her dry lips softly spat out a few words. Kensusunu's size suddenly began to grow. The layer of ice on the surface also collapsed in an instant, turning into debris. Kensusunu's size also gradually increased. Although Dustless didn't release his full strength, its size was still a head bigger than the Enchantress's azure ice. Chapter 1505. Although the bigger one might not necessarily be the winner, but looking at the tall and straight Susunu, which was even bigger than Yao Ji's azure ice by a head, everyone was shocked. Sneak attacking me for no reason. You should at least give me an explanation, right? Dustless glanced at Aurora, who had taken over Nagisa's consciousness, and said with a cold tone. At the same time, Kensusunu's huge eyes looked at Yao Ji's azure ice with hostility and killing intent. This girl actually has feelings for me. Is this the nature of a vampire? But she is still too young to suck my blood. Plus, Koju is my enemy. Dustless could also see the passion in Aurora's eyes. The only thing that could move her was his blood. It was normal for vampires to be obsessed with blood. Not everyone was as weird as Koju. However, it was impossible for him to let her suck his blood for free. Plus, Aurora was only taking over Nagisa's body. She was not a real vampire. Gulp. Natsuki looked at the scene in silence. She did not know why, but she wanted Dustless and Aurora to fight. It would be best if they could shatter the legend of the invincible true ancestor. Sneak attack you for no reason? Hearing this, Agurola was furious. Her cold expression loosened up, giving her a different kind of flavor. However, no one could face the anger of a true ancestor. You are trying to sow discord between Koju and... Cough cough cough. Dustless coughed twice and pretended to be uncomfortable to interrupt Aurora. He knew what she wanted to say. The current development was completely different from the original work. Dustless had tricked Koju. Jijwa Shelley had already parted ways with Koju. And because of Dustless's instigation, they were like fire and water. Oh right, if I remember correctly, that artificial life form. Natsuki's eyes flashed. She suddenly said to Dustless, Asteroidi, the artificial life form brought by Ostak, is in big trouble. If you don't help, her life force will be devoured by the curly beast sooner or later. How can I help? It's not like I can devour the curly beasts. Wu Chen rolled his eyes and said with an innocent face. He was not omnipotent. He did not meddle in politics when he was not in position. In the original work, Akatsuki Koju had swallowed the curly beast in Asteroide's body, allowing her to survive. But now, Akatsuki Koju's script had been stolen by Dustless. Not only that, but Dustless and Akatsuki Koju's relationship was also very bad. Dustless wanted Dustless to beg Akatsuki Koju to let Asteroide die in peace. This guy should be able to do it too. Looking at Aurora, Dustless guessed that she could also devour curly beasts. After all, if Koju's imposter could do it, then there was no reason why Aurora couldn't. We can give it a try. Nangong Natsuya nodded in agreement. Aurora was definitely stronger than that half-baked Koju. But if we beg her? Wu Chun had a pained expression on his face as he looked at Aurora with a speechless expression. Moreover, there was a faint smile on the corner of Aurora's mouth that was too beautiful to behold. It was obviously a sincere smile from the bottom of his heart. This made Wu Chun even more depressed. Go and take a look at Asteroide first. Stabilize her for now, Dustless said to Nangong Natsuya seriously. Pay attention to your status. I am your superior. Nangong Natsuya looked at Dustless unhappily. She could only accept it and decisively retreated. She would not be of any help if she stayed. If a fight broke out, she might even become a burden to Dustless. What do you want to talk to me about by sending her away? Aurora, who had taken over Nagisa's body, asked. Why don't we make a deal? You help me devour the curly beast in Asteroide's body. We will return the favor. In return, I will help you revive. Dustless maintained his calm and stated his terms. Revive me? Do you think I am a 3-year-old child? Aurora's tone had a hint of anger. Dustless was obviously deceiving her like a child. If she could revive at will, she would have done so long ago. Just because you can't do it doesn't mean others can't. Dustless was still very confident. He smiled confidently and said, "Anyway, you don't have to be afraid. I won't run away. Besides, I live next door to Xiao Guxing's house." That's true. After thinking about it, Aurora felt relieved. It did not matter if she was deceived by Dustless once. At most, she would kill Asteroidi and let Dustless know the price of deceiving her. "I can help you try, but I hope you can really revive me." Aurora looked at Dustless with a hint of warning in her eyes. She turned her head and walked to the place where Asteroidi had fainted. Her eyes were jumping with unconcealable excitement. If it was possible, Aurora did not want to occupy Nagisa's body forever. Instead, she wanted her real self to face Xiao Guxing of the past and return to the intimate relationship they had before. Although this was just an extravagant hope, she still held the mentality of a fluke. Besides, she was just giving it a try. She would not lose anything. Reviving you is not a problem, but do you still want to live a peaceful life with Xiao Guxing? What if the two of you join hands to deal with me? I will never allow such a thing to happen. Dustless sneered secretly. Reviving Aurora was also a plan from a long time ago. Xiao Guxing's future, Akatsuki Empire, could go to hell. Letting his empire of nothingness was more suitable. And Aurora was one of the loyal thugs of this empire. Such a big country needed all kinds of talents. It was impossible to count on Dustless to exhaust himself. As for whether Aurora agreed or not, it did not matter. He just needed to beat her until she was convinced. In the end, this world was still ruled by the person with the biggest fist. Chapter 1506. What Dustless did just now was just a gentle method. If Aurora didn't know what was good for her, or directly rejected him, then Dustless wouldn't recommend letting her know what kind of power surpassing a true ancestor was like. Strange. Natsuki suddenly walked over and looked at Dustless in surprise. That fellow is the fourth true ancestor. Although she's just a soul now, it's really unbelievable that you could make her submit. Just now, Aurora swallowed the curly beast in Asteroidi's body and temporarily solved the crisis of Asteroidi. Natsuki just happened to be lacking a maid, so she was very suitable. Hearing this, Dustless smiled mysteriously. Are you talking about Aurora? She didn't have a choice. In fact, a true ancestor isn't as difficult to deal with as you think. You just need to cater to her interests. Humph, don't you feel pain in your back when you talk? If a true ancestor was easy to deal with, then this planet wouldn't have been monopolized by them. But this time, your method is brilliant. Natsuki curled her lips in disdain. Obviously, she didn't mean what she said. At the same time, in another direction, a big event happened. Are you sure? At that time, the sky was dark. Could it be that your eyes were playing tricks on you? Saikai Academy, which was the school of Koju and the others. At this moment, two figures were standing on the rooftop of the teaching building. One was Koju's good friend, Yaesmoki, and the other was one of the 3 saints of the Lion King organization, Koyong Koyong. She had a ponytail and looked quite cute. She was wearing the sailor uniform of the Saikai Academy, and had a very elegant temperament. She was obviously a very ordinary student, but her actual identity was one of the 3 saints of the Lion King organization. There's no need to answer this question. Do you think my eyes are playing tricks on me? I've been monitoring the ancient city for a long time. At that time, that guy called Dustless also happened to come. Moreover, that guy is very strange. The moves he used weren't magic, but some kind of special ability. He can also fly, and with overwhelming strength he defeated Ostak. Yaesmoki said cautiously. He was afraid that if he encountered Dustless, he would be instantly KO'd. Is it that exaggerated? With a hint of doubt in his eyes, Xian Gaiyong said softly. Dustless's origin is not clear. The only useful information we have is that he is a subordinate of Nangong Natsuki. What a pity. If he is as strong as you said, he can be pulled into our Lion King organization. It seems like Nangong Natsuki is better this time. You misunderstood what I meant. Motoki Yase smiled bitterly. After talking for so long, it turned out that it was all nonsense. Motoki Yase did not understand what he meant. To sum it up, I think that guy is very dangerous. He has no attachments and does everything without a purpose. It's as if he does everything according to his heart. Yase Motoki's tone became serious. This kind of person is not someone Koju can compare to. Although he is a true ancestor, he has his own position. At the very least, he will not attack his friends. But that Dustless is very different. To put it bluntly, he is like a hooligan who will beat up anyone he dislikes. Motoki Yase had seen it with his own eyes. Ostak had no grudge against Dustless, but he was beaten up by Dustless, and his head was smashed bloody. You have a point. Xian Gaiyong nodded slightly. He was strong and mysterious. This kind of person could cause more damage than Koju. After all, Koju was still under the control of the Lion King organization, and Dustless did everything according to his whims. No one could control him. Why don't we send someone to monitor Dustless? Motoki Yase suggested. I remember that Jijua Shelley is Dustless's roommate. Shelley is very suitable to monitor him. That won't do. Don't forget that our purpose is to send Shelley to Koju as a concubine. It will be easier to control Koju in the future. Shelley is not suitable to monitor Dustless. Xian Gaiyong shook her head. She felt bitter in her heart. The plan was perfect, but the result made the higher-ups of the Lion King organization speechless and depressed. Everything was fine before, but since Dustless and Jijua Shelley lived together, this girl seemed to be possessed. She disliked Koju more and more. Are we going to give up monitoring Dustless? Motoki Yase asked nervously. He felt that Dustless was more dangerous than Koju. You don't have to worry about this. Just continue to monitor Koju. As for monitoring Dustless, I have someone else in mind. Xian Gaiyong smiled mysteriously and disappeared without a trace. Wait. What are you going to do? Send someone to monitor Dustless, and then find out that he is plotting to assassinate Dustless? Motoki Yase asked worriedly before Xian Gaiyong disappeared completely. Xian Gaiyong was also stunned. She lowered her head and didn't know what to do. If Dustless was worthless, she could just give up on him. But what if he was valuable? Xian Gaiyong also had a headache. She sighed and said, let's take it one step at a time. Troubled times. Motoki Yase shook his head and went back to class. That guy is fine now. Now fulfill your promise and quickly revive me. Nagisa, who was occupied by Agrora's consciousness, said to Dustless in a commanding tone. You want to order me? Dream on. Dustless sneered in his heart. He decided to teach Agrora a lesson. He put on an innocent expression and pretended to be surprised. Revive you? Miss, you must have mistaken me for someone else. Did I say that just now? Chapter 1507. Agrora's eyes widened, and her bright eyes dimmed. She couldn't figure out how there could be such a shameless person in this world. Although it was common to go back on one's words, this bastard was a little too shameless. She didn't expect Dustless to turn hostile so quickly. It's been at most 5 minutes, and you're already turning hostile? Agrora clenched her teeth and suppressed the killing intent in her heart. Take back your words now and fulfill your promise. I can pretend I didn't hear anything just now. He. Dustless's big watery eyes rolled around. With an innocent expression, he said in an extremely irresponsible tone, I don't understand what you mean. Please explain in detail. What promise did I make? Resurrect you? What a joke. Bastard, go to hell. The corner of Agrora's mouth twitched a few times. She couldn't take it anymore, and went berserk on the spot. The azure light that attacked Dustless earlier descended once again and froze everything. Enchantress Azure Ice. At Agrora's command, a vassal beast that was a combination of a mermaid and a demonic bird immediately appeared. Ka. Ice appeared around Dustless once again, and the ground began to reflect light. Everything was dazzling ice, and it attacked Dustless at an extremely fast speed. This time, Agrora was really infuriated. Ka. In an instant, Dustless's body was frozen. He didn't even have time to use Consisinu before he tragically turned into a human-shaped ice sculpture. Humph, this is the price of angering me. You're just a mere human. Yet you dare to be so arrogant. You deserve it, Agrora said with a smile of exultation. Whoosh. However, at this moment, Agrora suddenly felt a chill, especially the lower half of her body. It was bone-piercing cold, as if someone had taken off her skirt. The other parts of her body were fine. Pa. Just as she was about to turn around to see what was going on, a crisp sound suddenly rang out. Agrora's expression changed slightly, followed by grief and indignation. It's fine if you sneak attack me just now, but you still dare to sneak attack me now? Watch how I teach you a lesson. Pa. Dustless had an evil grin on his face as he appeared behind Agrora like a ghost. He lifted Xiao Nagisa's skirt and gave her a few slaps without mercy. I'm going to tear you to pieces. Agurola was furious and almost vomited blood. This bastard had smacked the butt of a true ancestor. How could she face Akatsuki Guching if news of this were to spread? The flame in his heart rose to an unprecedented level. Ao. The 12th scroll beast, Beauty Sala's deep ice, sensed Agrora's anger. It immediately opened its mouth and let out a heart-wrenching roar. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Not only that, there were even ice shards floating in the sky. Ah, so scary. Dustless pretended to be afraid as he spoke. However, on the surface he was indifferent. Not only was he afraid, but his frivolous tone was full of contempt. He even had a smile on his face, as if he had encountered a fun toy. Then I'll reveal a little bit of my strength, Dustless said lazily. With your looks? You want to defeat my scroll beast? Both your hands are restrained. What are you going to use to duel with Beauty Sala's deep ice? Do you think it's enough to compete in handsomeness? Although your looks are not bad, this scroll beast is not a love-struck fool. Or do you want to use that contemptuous gaze of yours to repel it? What a vulgar joke. Agrora sneered. Dustless had restrained her with both his hands. What was he going to use to fight the scroll beast? TSK. You're really smart. Young lady, I'm starting to like you, but I can kill this monster with just my eyes. Dustless stared at Agrora in astonishment. Then he calmly stared at Beauty Sala's deep ice. His eyes clearly changed. Look carefully. A miracle will happen in this instant. Even a true ancestor will be left in the dust. Dustless's eye power extended to the limit as he muttered softly. Tomb of Samsara, border prison. Bang bang bang. 2 to 3 seconds after he said that, the sound of a fight suddenly rang out. It was followed by the agonizing screams of Beauty Sala's deep ice. The mighty scroll beast was in an extremely miserable state. It was being beaten up by Dustless's shadows. How is this possible? Agrora was stunned. Who exactly attacked Beauty Sala's deep ice? Come out if you have the guts. Let's continue. With a malicious smile, Dustless lifted Xiao Nagisa's skirt again. Get lost. Agrora screamed in panic. She couldn't do anything to Dustless. She could only stop controlling Xiao Nagisa's body. Beauty Sala's deep ice also disappeared. Although it wasn't Agrora's but that was hit. She could clearly feel the special stinging pain when she was controlling Xiao Nagisa's body. Plop! Xiao Nagisa fell to the ground as if she had fallen asleep. Only her skirt was still lifted up. Her fair skin was clearly visible. Xiao Nagisa, who fell into the ice shards, looked extremely pitiful. Really, Agrora is too irresponsible. Dustless shook his head and took the initiative to help Xiao Nagisa tidy up her skirt. His eyes were calm, and he didn't do anything out of line. His expression remained calm throughout. He was just teasing Agrora, who asked her to be so arrogant. Bastard, what are you trying to do? A trembling voice suddenly rang out. After she saw Dustless squatting beside Xiao Nagisa and helping her tidy up her skirt, her voice was filled with boundless anger. She raised her voice several times and shouted angrily out of humiliation. You despicable bastard! How dare you molest my sister in front of me? Xiao Nagisa's mind was filled with a million F***CKU. You bastard! It's fine if you bully me, but what did my sister do to you? You can't be so shameless. Chapter 1508. Koju was so angry that he almost fainted. His eyes started to roll back, and his breathing became several times faster. His red cheeks couldn't be concealed. Anger, anger, anger. The fire in his heart had reached an unprecedented level. You bastard! How dare you take advantage of my sister? Koju's eyes were spitting fire. He was like a barrel of fire that could explode at any moment. He wanted to drag everyone down with him. Especially Dustless. Shut up, your sister was attacked. I saved her. Dustless's expression changed. How old is your sister? She's just a kid in middle school. Why would I do that to a kid? Koju glared at Dustless and rushed in front of Dustless. He pushed him away and looked at Nagisa nervously. She seems to be fine. Maybe I'm overthinking. After looking at Nagisa for a while, Koju let out a sigh of relief. Just as he was about to stand up, his expression froze. Don't tell me. Dustless, who had been staring at Koju's face, felt his heart skip a beat. He realized something was wrong when he saw Koju's dark expression. Just as he was about to slip away, Xiao Guqing's furious voice rang out. And you said you didn't do anything out of line. Why is Nagisa's clothes so messy? Koju looked at Dustless fiercely. The veins on his forehead were bulging. Why is it messy? Of course it's because I spanked her ass. Dustless complained in his mind, but his expression was that of a gentleman. I don't know what you're talking about. If there's nothing else, I'll leave first, Dustless said casually. Don't even think about leaving. Koju grabbed Dustless's arm and said, let me see if Nagisa is okay before you leave. If something happens to her, I'll drag you down with me even if it costs me my life. With that, Koju helped Xiao Nagisa up and began to observe her expression and the marks on the ground. He was trying to find evidence that she had been molested by Dustless. This guy, I don't think he would do that. Dustless muttered in her heart. She had just slapped Xiao Naxia's butt until it was bright red. What are you two doing? A surprised voice suddenly came. Dustless and Xiao Guqing both darted towards the source of the voice, and saw Jijua Shelley, who was holding the snow haze wolf. It's him. Xiao Guqing slightly knitted his eyebrows. He was a simple man, and didn't try to hide anything from Jijua. He was about to tell Jijua Shilai what he had seen just now, and tell her to pay attention to Dustless. My little sister was attacked. Koju's face was filled with grief as he pointed at Dustless. I just found him. Koju, you bastard. Dustless had been staring at Koju the whole time. Seeing that Koju was about to say something bad about him, Dustless immediately interrupted him and yelled, You bloody scum! How dare you do that to your own sister? What? Koju stared at Dustless in shock, not understanding what he was talking about. You bastard! You are a scum. How dare you try to lift your sister's skirt? You don't deserve to be a human being. 2 lines of tears fell from Dustless's eyes. His face was filled with sorrow as he pushed all the blame onto Koju. Puff! Hearing him, Koju almost fainted. He couldn't help but puke out a mouthful of blood. You. Pointing at Dustless with a trembling finger, Koju didn't expect him to be so shameless. Not only was he lying through his teeth, he was even crying. How dare you do that to your own sister? Jijua Shilai, who had a strong sense of justice, immediately raised the snow haze wolf and thrust it towards Ji Hao without saying anything. 81 of the Binding Ways space break. A transparent defensive magic screen appeared in front of Jijua Shilai without any sign, blocking her way. Shilai, don't get angry. Don't forget your mission. If you kill a scum like Koju, you will also be punished by the Lion King organization. Scum like him should be killed by everyone. Therefore, leave the mission of teaching him a lesson to me. Dustless said with a gentle face, then looked at Koju with an evil grin. However, Jijua Shilai, who was furious, didn't notice it. She only stared at Koju with hatred. Thank you, Dustless. Be careful, he is the 4th true ancestor. Jijua Shilai nodded gratefully. Seeing this, Koju almost collapsed. He looked at Dustless with anger and sadness. This guy is such a bastard. How dare he use me as a tool to pick up girls? Don't listen to him, actually. Koju was about to expose Dustless's plan, but the latter turned into a beam of light and dove down, mercilessly kicking Koju's face. Light-speed kick. The flashing foot flew out mercilessly, creating a huge impact. Koju was blown away like a cannonball, smashing a few walls in a row. Brother, for my chastity, just admit it. It's normal for vampires to be lustful. Dustless silently walked towards Koju and looked at his burnt body, then said loudly, "Your chastity?" Koju looked at Dustless, who was walking towards him with black eyes. Hearing those words, he had an impulse to kill himself. This guy is so disgusting. Sooner or later, I'll be pissed to death. Bastard. Just you wait. I will expose you, unless you kill me. Koju looked like a demon. His eyes were red, and his whole eye sockets were bloodshot. He had never been so frustrated in his life. He was about to become a mental patient. Chapter 1509. Xiao Guqing was both angry and ashamed. He had never wanted to kill someone so badly. However, even though this person was right in front of him, he couldn't do it, not even the so-called true ancestor. Don't say that. I didn't molest your sister. Do you have any proof? Dustless asked with a smile. Xiao Guqing turned around and snorted. He didn't see anything, but he couldn't stand being framed and beaten up by Dustless. He hated Dustless. Hee. Dustless laughed weirdly and said calmly, "Besides, you seem to have forgotten one thing. The current situation is in my favor. You are the perverted uncle." Hearing Wu Chen's words, Xiao Guqing's face darkened immediately. He really couldn't understand why Jijua Shelley was staring at him like he was her enemy. He had never offended her, but she was always looking at him like he was her enemy. On the other side, "Nagisa, how are you feeling?" A while later, Nagisa woke up. Jijua Shelley looked at her with concern. After all, they were classmates. "What's wrong?" Nagisa showed an innocent face. Jijua Shelley sighed with relief, then said angrily, "The fourth true ancestor wanted to molest you. Fortunately, Dustless helped him. Otherwise, that scum." Ouch. Nagisa's eyes turned red. She groaned in pain and rubbed her buttocks. She even felt the pressure to stand up. This sudden change stunned Jijua Shelley. They were both girls, so they had nothing to worry about. Therefore, Jijua Shelley just lifted Nagisa's skirt awkwardly. The fourth true ancestor, that bastard. Looking at the red handprint, Jijua Shelley was enraged. Spiritual power was already flowing out of her body. "I'll go find that scum now and avenge you." Jijua Shelley, who valued ties and had a strong sense of justice, left angrily. The front end of her snow wolf was filled with killing intent. The fourth true ancestor? Did he molest me? Damn it. Xiao Nagisa agreed. She didn't know that the fourth true ancestor was her brother. "So you're saying that you don't accept my conditions?" Dustless squatted next to Koju, hoping that he would take the blame for him. However, this brat refused and even said that he would expose Dustless. "You molested my sister, and you want me to admit that I did it? Only an idiot would do such a thing. Only a retard would accept it." Koju mocked. Really? Dustless was too lazy to continue talking nonsense with him. The next second he raised his right foot. Persuasion is useless. It seems like punches and kicks are more effective. Buzz buzz buzz. Dazzling light covered his little feet, and a huge halo of destruction spread out. Koju's face flashed with fear, and cold sweat dripped down. Although vampires had the curse of immortality and could recover, Koju wasn't a masochist. Ka ka ka. Golden lightning emerged from Koju's body as he tried to resist Dustless's violent suppression. Alas, he was destined to meet a tragic end. Dustless was only a half-baked true ancestor. Even if other true ancestors came over, Dustless could use a lightspeed kick to get rid of their curly beasts if he wanted to. Ka ka ka. The golden lightning overflowing from Koju's body pounced on Dustless, but the effect was negligible. Dustless had his hands in his pockets, completely ignoring the existence of the lightning. On the other hand, the light on his feet was getting brighter and brighter. Koju was at a loss. Lightspeed kick. Aiming at Koju's vital point, Dustless mercilessly sent out a kick. Elo 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 elo. Woo 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 woo. A blood-curdling scream that was 100 times more miserable than before resounded through the sky. A mushroom cloud of flames emerged from Koja's body as he was sent flying again. This time, he became a eunuch even more miserably. However, it didn't matter. True ancestors had strong recovery abilities, and the places that were kicked out could grow back again. However, this wasn't a good experience. Perhaps no one would be able to endure it. Dustless didn't know exactly how it felt, but just from the cracking sound and the sight of Koju rolling on the ground, ignoring the scorched earth, Dustless knew that it wasn't a good experience. Still not dead. Jijua Shelley, who had rushed over, saw that Koju was only hovering between life and death in pain. She said with dissatisfaction, "You did it too beautifully." Looking carefully at the place where Koju was covering, Jijua Shelley's face flashed with embarrassment. She secretly gave Dustless a thumbs up and said, "You did the right thing." Poochie. Koju was so angry that he spat out another mouthful of blood after hearing Jijua Shelley's praise. "I didn't have a choice. This bastard is scum. He molested his sister, and now he's blaming it on me. Don't stop me. I want to die now." Dustless picked up a sharp weapon from the ground. His face was full of despair. "Why don't you die and purify the world?" Koju shouted hysterically. However, he didn't expect Jijua Shelley to kick him. Bang! Jijua Shelley kicked Koju in the stomach. He grimaced in pain and felt extremely depressed. According to Koju's imagination, the one who should be beaten up was Dustless, not him. "You little bastard, you could have just taken the blame, but you forced me to use other means." Dustless laughed inwardly. He was a man who had lived for hundreds of years. If he couldn't even beat a teenager, it would be too funny. Just now he had used an illusion to confuse Jijua Shelley and make her think that Koju was the one who molested Nagisa. Dustless, on the other hand, was a righteous man who was framed. Chapter 15:10. Koju's face turned ugly, as if he had just swallowed 10 tons of flies. He ignored the pain all over his body and looked at Dustless. Compared to him, the other ancestors were too cute. At least they wouldn't use such a despicable method. "Forget it, I'll spare him this time. He's Nagisa's brother after all," Dustless said mercifully. "Keep pretending." Koju wanted to cry, but no tears came out. He could only look at Gmo Shelley silently. He didn't know why, but no matter what explanation he heard, she still believed that he was the murderer. Gmo Shelley punched and kicked Koju angrily. Scum bastard. You won't even spare your own sister." Koju vomited blood, but he could only endure it silently. He swore to himself that he would make Dustless pay him back 100-fold. "Stop hitting Kojo-kun." Nagisa couldn't help but say. Koju looked at Gmo Shelley and found himself in a miserable state. His whole body was burned, and his face was swollen like a pig's head. "Let's go. I'll treat you to a meal." Wu Chen glanced at Gmo Shuelai, then dragged Gmo Shuelai and Xiao Nagshao away. That high-spirited look of Wu Chen made Xiao Guqing feel dizzy. Ouch! He wanted to stand up, but the pain was so unbearable that he had to lie on the ground. Half an hour later, he finally felt better and could stand up. Whoosh! 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 Suddenly, a sharp sound was heard. Koju was startled. He thought that Dustless had come back to annoy him. Unlike his usual lazy self, he immediately got into a fighting stance. However, when he raised his head, he saw a familiar face. Yes. Koju was stunned. How did this guy appear? He was distracted and didn't see him clearly. Cough, cough, cough. Smoky coughed awkwardly and pretended that he didn't know anything. "Koju, what happened to you? Who beat you? Do you need to call the police?" Although Motoki clearly saw Koju getting beaten up, he still had to play dumb when it was time to do so. That's not important. Koju's eyes shone as he stared at Motoki Yase. Remembering the characteristics of vampires, Koju's eyes turned crimson. That bastard Gucheng. Could it be that he wants to suck my blood? Motoki Yase was not an idiot. He knew what that fervent gaze meant. Without thinking, he immediately ran away. He had a good relationship with Koju, but that did not mean that he was gay. "Stop, Yase. We're friends. You have to help me." Moki Yase ran very fast, but Koju's reaction was also surprisingly fast. He grabbed Moki Yase's collar and bit his neck mercilessly. And in another direction, Dustless was having a great time with Jimu Shelley and Xiao Nagisa. Although Xiao Nagisa was very worried about Xiao Guqing, she was fooled by Dustless. Jimu Shelley even joined Dustless, helping him to fool Xiao Nagisa, his classmate. In Jimu Shelley's mind, Koju was already labeled as a super pervert. The three of them went crazy for a few hours before returning home. On the way back, they met Koju. Although the recovery ability of vampires was not as good as Dustless's ten-tailed body, it was still pretty good. Especially after sucking blood, the recovery ability was amazing. This guy must have sucked blood. Otherwise, he wouldn't have recovered so fast. In the corridor, Dustless stared at Koju's back in surprise. At this moment, Koju seemed to have become a different person. When he looked at Dustless, the anger and frustration had disappeared. It was as if he knew that he was not Dustless's opponent. Of course, it was also a kind of forbearance. When the time was right, Koju would show his sharp fangs. Do as you wish. If you don't know what's good for you, I don't mind teaching you another lesson. You can say that it's the seasoning of life. It's not bad to have a few more strong opponents in life. It's really uncomfortable to be at the top. Dustless stretched his body and said. After playing with Xiao Nagisa and Jimu Shelley for a few hours, he was still a bit tired. You're not that tired, are you? You were so excited when you were beating Koju, Jimu Shelley said to Dustless while opening the door. How can it be the same? Dustless shook his head and glanced at Jimu Shelley. She and Xiao Nagisa were having a lot of fun, but he himself was exhausted. When he was shopping with women, it was always the man who carried the bags and things. Creak. The door was gently pushed open. Jimu Shelley and Dustless thought that there was no one in the room, but a dark figure suddenly rushed out and pounced on them when they were careless. However, Wu Chen was obviously not welcomed, and was even ignored. The black figure happily hugged Jijua Shuelai, while murmuring something. He was very excited. Shelley, long time no see. You're getting more and more beautiful. The dark figure seemed to be very familiar with Jimu Shelley. She rubbed her forehead against Jimu Shelley's shoulder in an especially intimate way, and her gem-like eyes were filled with happiness. Xia Hua, long time no see. Although Jimu Shelley was embarrassed and her face blushed, she didn't stop her. Without a doubt, she was also very happy to see her close friend. Oh, it's Huangban Xia Hua. Dustless was enlightened and calmly looked at this scene. His face looked normal, but his eyebrows were slightly knitted, as he had sensed that something was wrong. Chapter 15:11. Huangban Sayaka and Jijua Shelley were happily catching up with each other. They didn't even care about Dustless's existence. The two girls were talking and laughing, looking very harmonious. However, Dustless felt that someone was spying on him from time to time. There were only 3 people in the big room. Without a doubt, the one who was spying on him was either Jijua Shelley or Huangban Sayaka. How strange. After drinking a few cups of hot tea, Wu Chen's relaxed brows furrowed again. That Huangban Sayaka. Is she spying on me? Dustless thought it was Jijua Shelley who was spying on him, but he didn't expect it to be Huangban Sayaka. Although she concealed it well, Wu Chen, who was sensitive by nature, had experienced several worlds. He could feel the penetrating meaning in her vigilant eyes. In the future. After a while, Huangban Sayaka suddenly raised her voice and said loudly, I will live here. What? Wu Chen and Jijua Shelley didn't know how to react to this sudden vow. They stared at Huangban Sha, who was beaming with joy, with their mouths agape. Don't tell me this guy is. After being stunned for a while, Dustless, who was the first to recover, looked a bit gloomy. Deep in his eyes, a burning flame of anger flashed across. She is probably spying on me. Damn the Lion King organization. Not only are they meddling in other people's business, but they are also spying on me. Is my existence a threat to the peace of the human race? Wu Chen guessed in his heart, and felt a burst of anger. No wonder it was that Ye Smoky who spilled the beans. Thinking back to the battle with Ostak, when Agrora showed up, and when Akatsuki bullied Koju, Ye Smoky seemed to have been observing the battle. As for Jijua Shelley, Dustless looked at Shelley. He didn't think that she would betray him. And there was no need for her to betray the Lion King organization, because they were roommates. Humph. You dare to mess with me? Then I will take my revenge. Dustless sneered. Although he didn't know where the Lion King organization was, he knew a lot about Xian Gaiyong, one of the three saints. But, as everyone knew, the Lion King organization specialized in sending their wives for 20 years, and the Lion King organization specialized in marrying their daughters for 20 years. They could flirt, live together, warm the bed, and even have sex without anyone knowing. On the surface, it was a supervision, but in reality, it was a professional job of sending girls. What a great, gentlemanly organization. However, when it came to Dustless, he couldn't bring himself to be happy. Anyway, let's go find that ancient idler first. I remember that she's a girl with glasses and 2 ponytails. Her real name seems to be Fada, one of the strongest attack mages in Japan. Dustless recalled the relevant information about ancient song. He heard that the 3 saints of the Lion King organization were quite powerful, and even the true ancestors of the vampires were extremely afraid of them. Ancient Leisure had an ability called Silence Break, which allowed him to insert an attack that shouldn't have existed in the interval of time. It was an absolute preemptive attack power. Although he couldn't stop time or achieve the effect of teleportation, after the activation of the ability, he would only leave the reality that the opponent was defeated by his attack. With this ability, he became a monster that even the true ancestor of vampires had to respect. In other words, anyone who encountered Ancient Idler would be at a disadvantage. Interesting. Is this the Silent Break ability? This ability is invincible. Fiutise. Standing in front of the window, Dustless looked down at Itagami Island. His eyes were fixed on the horizon. Suddenly he saw Xian Koyang, who was studying in Saikai Academy. Looks like I can only let her do as she pleases. I can't kick her out of my home, can I? Dustless felt a headache coming on. This was a shared apartment, and it was impossible for him to kick her out. He needed Jijua Shelley's permission to do so. If that's the case, I'll have to look for trouble with the Lion King organization. Dustless stretched his body. He didn't want to be a busybody. After all, Ancient Idler would sleep with Jijua Shelley, so he didn't have to worry about anything. Hey! He went to the closet and took out his pajamas. When he was about to take a shower and sleep, he heard Ancient Idler's voice. Her voice was filled with jealousy. Don't you think it's perverted for a man like you to live in an apartment with 2 girls? Especially during these few days when I wasn't around. Did you do anything out of line to Shelley? Ancient Idler stared at Dustless with her bright eyes. Her clear eyes were full of wisdom. She would be able to find a loophole if there was one. As expected, this girl is gay. Dustless shuddered at Ancient Idler's strange interest in Ancient Idler. Why was she so happy to live in this apartment? She was treating him like a rival in love. I think you're even more perverted. You know that I'm a man, but you still shamelessly live in this apartment. You're obviously here to flirt with me. Dustless retorted sharply. Flirt with you? Ancient Idler's mouth twitched. She felt that Dustless was too shameless. She might get pregnant if she talked too much with him. The purpose of living in this apartment was just as Dustless thought. She was here to spy on him. Miss, you probably don't know about it yet, Dustless sneered. The Lion King organization had another nickname, the organization that sent women. Jijua Shelley was an example. She was sent to Koju Town as a concubine, but Dustless ruined it. Now Ancient Idler was sent here to spy on Dustless. Her orders were probably similar to Jijua Shelley's. If they could rope him in, they would do so. Once they realized that he was harmful to humanity, they would eliminate him immediately. Chapter 15:12. Huangban Sha glared at Dustless angrily. She thought, this guy is too rude. He doesn't know how to be a gentleman at all. Ladies' first rule is quite popular in this world. However, the tragic thing was that it didn't work here with Dustless. Fine, you win. Stomping her feet in anger, Yaha also felt helpless. At the end of the day, She was just a guest, and Wu Chen and Jijua Shuelai had the final say. Huang Bansha and Yahua were the ones who had the final say. Hee. With a hollow laugh, Wu Chen put on a compassionate expression and said, "If you're willing to beg me, I'm willing to give up a quarter of my bed for you to sleep." A quarter? Huang Bansha's face darkened. She looked at Dustless's bedroom. It was just a small place. A quarter of it was only enough for half of her body. I'd rather sleep on the sofa. Huang Bansha glanced at Dustless coldly and turned her head away. She would rather die than live in dishonor. "Sha, let's sleep together," Jijua Shelley said. "Shelley, I knew you still love me." Hearing Wu Chen's words, Huang Bansha was overjoyed. She pulled Jijua and Shelley into her arms, then looked at Wu Chen with an exultant look on her face. Boring. Glancing faintly at Huang Bansayaka, Wu Chen turned around to take a bath and sleep. Time passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, it was the morning of the next day. Since Koju still needed to go to school, Wu Chen and Jijua Shelley, who were in charge of monitoring him, naturally had to follow him. Although Natsuki Nangong had said that she would be in charge of Koju's Rainbow Sea Academy, Wu Chen, who wanted to cause trouble for the Lion King organization, decisively followed. What made him speechless was that Huang Bansha was still following him closely. "This world is crazy," Dustless complained. He and Jijua Shelley were monitoring Koju while Huang Bansha was monitoring him. It felt like the world was a complete mess. Space was limited in the subway, and it was rush hour now, so it was very crowded. Bumps and collisions were inevitable. "Bastard, where are you putting your hand?" Suddenly, an ear-piercing shriek was heard. Dustless froze as he suddenly realized that his hand had been grabbed by a soft arm. He subconsciously followed the source. The person that entered his eyes was a beautiful young girl with soft golden hair that was as dazzling as gold. Her big watery eyes were bright and full of expression. She was wearing the school uniform of Kaihai Academy, and her slender and beautiful legs were exposed to Dustless's sight. Dustless was in a daze. He asked tentatively, "Blue Feather, Shallow Onion? You know me?" The blonde girl was obviously stunned. She looked at Dustless with some surprise, then grabbed his hand and said coldly, "Since it's me, you still dare to touch my butt. This is a knowing violation of the law. That's a double crime." The person who had ambushed Shallow Blue Feathers was Dustless. "It's an unavoidable factor," Dustless replied with a serious expression. In fact, it really was an unavoidable factor. The space was limited, and it was very crowded. Shallow Blue Feathers was walking around, so it was normal for her to bump into him. Cough, cough, cough. "Miss, what happened just now was a misunderstanding. Please believe my friend." Jijua Shelley noticed the conflict between Dustless and Shallow Blue Feathers. She quickly came to the rescue. "We are roommates. Please believe him." "Sure enough, I can't let Akatsuki take advantage of me." He looked at Jijua Shelley touched. It was the right decision to save her from Akatsuki's evil clutches. "You better not let me see you again." She shook off Dustless's hand and glanced at Dustless, then continued to walk toward Akatsuki. What does this kid do? Dustless was quite puzzled after seeing this. He looked left and right and didn't find anything special about Koju. He was simply too weak. Despite being a true ancestor, he didn't seem to have any deterrence at all. His hair made him look like someone who deserved a beating. "It's me and Shelley this time. You won't be so lucky next time," Huang Bansha said arrogantly. Dustless smiled and waved his hand. It was indeed Shelley who had helped him. If she hadn't, he might have caused some unnecessary trouble. "Looks like we're here. After today, I'll treat you two to a meal." However, Huang Bansha shook her head decisively with a look of disdain. "I refuse. If I eat with you, I will definitely get pregnant." This guy is really... Dustless didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He didn't want to bicker with Huang Bansha. He looked at the magnificent school building through the window. That was his destination today, Saihai Academy. What grade is that Xiangguang? Dustless muttered to himself. He really didn't know, so he could only ask Natsuki Nangong. She should know which grade Xiangguang was in. As for Natsuki Nangong's office, it was easy to find. It was on the highest floor of Saihai Academy. It should be there. looking up at the majestic building that was dozens of stories high. Even though it was hundreds of meters away, Wu Chen could still see it clearly, especially when the windows were open. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Dustless turned into a ray of light and rushed up. The speed of light was too fast and no one could see it clearly. He just happened to enter Natsuki Nangong's office through the open window. However, the scene in front of him shocked Dustless. What are you doing? Also, did I come to the wrong place? Chapter 15-13. He saw Nangong Natsuki lying naked on the sofa. Her pure white back was clearly visible, and Asteruti, who was wearing a maid uniform, was massaging her. He could even hear Natsuki nodding her head. Cough cough cough. Dustless had to cough twice to prove his existence. Due to the angle of Natsuki Nangong's body, he could even see where he shouldn't be looking. Asteruti looked at Dustless in a daze. Her gem-like eyes were calm, and she only spoke after 4 or 5 seconds. Dustless has invaded. Do you want to attack? Natsuki Nangong turned her head to look at Dustless, who was embarrassed, and said lazily, climbing in through my window. That's a high-level method. There are dozens of floors between us, but... Natsuki Nangong paused for a moment. Then her voice became very low. You better give me a reasonable explanation. Or else. Humph. Natsuki Nangong's tone was resolute, and in Dustless's ears, it sounded like she wanted to die together with him. This is a misunderstanding. Who would have thought that you would enjoy it so much? Hearing this, Wu Chen argued with reason. He was speechless about Natsuki Nangong. Now it seems to be working hours, but you are actually doing a massage here. Can you blame me for this? What's your purpose? Natsuki Nangong asked calmly. Don't tell me it's for the Lion King Authority. I heard that they have already noticed you. Then your information is really outdated. Wu Chen rolled his eyes and sat on Nangong Nayu's usual seat. He glanced at her exquisite figure from the corner of his eyes and nodded slightly. You have guts. I've seen your butt 9 times, your chest 13 times. While Dustless was admiring her body, Natsuki Nangong's teasing voice sounded. Although it was very quiet, there was a different kind of pressure. Looking closely, Asteruti's hair was already dripping with sweat. Only Dustless was able to deal with it unperturbed, turning a deaf ear to everything as if they didn't exist. Don't you dare slander my innocence, Dustless coldly said. His heart was filled with awkwardness. Just now he had been in a daze. That was why Natsuki Nangong had caught him. However, Dustless would never admit to this kind of thing. Sorry for the sudden visit, I just want to ask who that ancient leisure song is. How do you know this person? Natsuki Nangong turned her head and stared at Dustless, but when she mentioned the name, Ancient Leisure Song, her tone was obviously several times louder. Although I don't know what your relationship is, if you want to take revenge on her, then. Just as Nangong Natsuya was about to persuade Dustless to extinguish his ambitions, Dustless spoke first. You're right, I want to take revenge on her. Wu Chen nodded fearlessly and admitted. Those guys from the Lion King organization don't know what's good for them. They actually sent someone to spy on me. They've gone too far. Dustless said hatefully. He was determined to teach the Lion King organization a lesson. They sent people to spy on you? Natsuki Nangong was stunned. She raised her eyebrows and her face didn't look good. No matter what, Wu Chen was still her subordinate. Being suddenly monitored by the people of the Lion King organization without distinguishing between right and wrong, wasn't this equivalent to slapping her face? Not just spying on me. They already sent people over. My roommate went from 1 to 2. Wu Chen rolled his eyes angrily and said impatiently. In short, where is the guy called Leisure Ancient Song? This time I'm going to beat her, until her mother can't recognize her. His arrogance knows no bounds. Natsuki Nangong sighed. You're very strong, but Ancient Leisure Song isn't weak either. Her ability is very strange. I still haven't found a way to suppress her. It's not a matter of strength. Dustless nodded. Ancient Leisure Song's ability was indeed extraordinary. If they were to fight, Dustless was confident that he could kill her in an instant. However, if she wanted to use her ability to act shamelessly, Dustless couldn't do anything about it. However, she could run away, but the temple couldn't. He could smash the Lion King organization's headquarters. But Natsuki Nangong's eyes were filled with hostility. She said bluntly, "Those people and I are competitors. This time, they dared to send people to bully my little brother. I won't let them off so easily." Natsuki Nangong's angry look was quite cute. She can't be thinking of. Dustless's expression was strange. He suddenly guessed what Natsuki Nangong wanted to do. "Let's go. We'll go and ask for an explanation. We can teach ancient leisure song a lesson." Ta-ta-ta-ta. Heavy footsteps could be heard in the corridor. Why is she looking for me? The young girl lowered her head and thought. This person was ancient leisure song. She slowly walked towards the rooftop. Her heart was filled with questions. Although she and Natsuki Nangong were familiar with each other, they rarely interacted with each other. The Lion King organization's relationship with the other departments was very bad. Creak. She gently pushed open the locked door. A petite black figure appeared in front of her. She was dressed like a gothic loli. No matter what, she was holding a parasol and a black lace fan. However, what made Ancient Leisure Song dissatisfied was that there was another person standing beside Natsuki Nangong. "Yo!" Dustless turned around and waved his hand. He revealed a polite smile. "It's you?" Ancient Leisure Song's expression froze. A trace of anger flashed in her eyes. She didn't say that there would be other people joining them. She felt like she was cheated. "You feel uncomfortable just like that? But you sending a spy to spy on me is 100 times worse than this." Wu Chen didn't give Xian Guyong any face the moment he came up. This guy said that he would monitor him, and he really did. Did he really think that the Lion King organization was a local snake? To be honest, I called you here to slap your face. Even Nangong Nayu was forced to retreat. She looked at Nangong Nayu. He managed to block it? Nangong Nayu's mouth trembled as she looked at Dustless and Xian Guyong with her eyes wide open. Dustless put his hands in his pockets and didn't put up any defense. His chest was hit by Xian Guyong's fist, but nothing happened. How is this possible? Not only Nangong Nayu was shocked, Xian Guyong's jaw almost dislocated. She looked at Dustless in a daze. She finally understood why this guy dared to call her an old maid. He was an out-and-out capable person. Although this girl's strength is average, her ability is very troublesome. I need to end this as soon as possible. It's best if I can injure her severely without killing Xian Guyong. Having made a decision in his heart, Dustless no longer concealed himself and revealed his true appearance. Boom boom boom. An explosion sounded in the cloudless sky. It was as if the end of the world had arrived. The soft sky was torn apart, and a 10-kilometer-long dark ravine appeared in the sky. Let alone Itagami Island, the ravine was getting bigger and bigger. Ka. Xian Guyong's expression changed drastically as a terrifying aura gathered around her body. She couldn't help but kneel down. The culprit was none other than this harmless-looking young man. "Now I have the right to call you an old maid, right?" Squatting down, Wu Chen playfully grabbed Xian Guyong's chin, picked his ears and asked with a smile. "By the way, I've always been a vengeful person. Just now, who said that he wanted to teach her a lesson?" Xian Guyong forced a smile after hearing this sentence, but it was uglier than crying. Under this monstrous aura, forget about teaching Dustless a lesson. If it wasn't for her strong foundation, just this aura alone would have been enough to knock her out. What kind of monster is this bastard? Is there a fifth primogenitor in this world? Nangong Natsuki and Xian Guyong sucked in a breath of cold air, as they looked at the sky that had been torn apart. This was like the wrath of a god. With his own aura, he could destroy the boundless sky in one fell swoop. Destroying the world would not be a problem. Your Lion King organization sent people to spy on me. Don't tell me you don't intend to give me an explanation? I know your ability is very troublesome, but as the saying goes, a monk can run away, but the temple can't run with him. If you don't give me a reasonable explanation, I will dismantle your Lion King organization. Both of his eyes shot out scarlet demonic light, and the surroundings immediately froze. Xian Guyong didn't dare to doubt the authenticity of this sentence. For a temperamental person like Wu Chen, He might have dismantled the Lion King's mechanism, because he was in a bad mood. So this is the reason why you are finding trouble with me. At the same time, Xian Gaiyong heaved a sigh of relief. She thought it was some idiot who provoked Dustless. She didn't expect it to be because of such a trivial matter. But this matter must be dealt with carefully. Xian Gaiyong opened her mouth, but closed it in the end. This matter wasn't a small matter, but it wasn't a big matter either. The key was how to deal with it. If they don't give Dustless an explanation, he might really destroy the Lion King organization in anger. Chapter 15:15. Koyomi felt a headache as she regretted it. It's all Ye Smoky's fault. Although the relationship between Koyomi and Ye Smoky was unclear, and the two of them even had an ambiguous relationship, she still complained that Ye Smoky was a little reckless this time. If this fellow could report Dustless's information in a little more detail, it would also not go to the extent of stirring up this sort of big trouble. Oh right. An idea flashed through Xiaogu's mind. He calmly explained, "You've misunderstood. We didn't send anyone to spy on you." "You want to deny it?" Dustless frowned. If it was a stranger, he could fool them, but as a transmigrator, he knew that Hanban Sayaka was the Lion King organization's dancing beauty. She had Rokushiki heavy armor demon subduing Bao, Huang Hualin. "Then tell me about it." Wu Chen listened attentively. "The real reason why we sent Hanban Sayaka to your side is..." Koyomi took a deep breath and tried to calm herself down. "I hope that you and Sayaka will get along well." "You have the nerve to say such a lousy excuse?" Dustless curled his lips in disdain. But this was the truth. The Lion King organization had another nickname, Sister Sending Agency. However, Dustless felt that it was a lousy excuse. Natsuki Nangong could still reluctantly accept it. The Lion King organization often did such things. Jijua Shelley was the best example. On the surface, she was the fourth ancestor's monitor, but in reality, she was sent to Koju as a wife to control him. Natsuki felt that it was normal for Koju to have such an idea. If Dustless had a future, they could use Hanban Sayaka to control him. Even if Dustless was useless, they could just retreat. Bang bang bang. Suddenly, there was a messy sound of footsteps in the corridor. There's always someone who doesn't know what's going on. Dustless's face was filled with killing intent. The Haushika haki just now was really shocking, and the endless void was torn apart. Such an unusual weather change couldn't be hidden from someone's eyes. Bang. The locked door was kicked open, and a silver-haired boy came into view. Dustless? When he saw Dustless's face, Koju's expression turned gloomy. From the moment he met Dustless, Koju's tragic life began. Becoming the fourth ancestor didn't bring him supreme glory, but countless tragic events. Even his younger sister's opinion of him had changed. She treated Koju as a pervert and kept a respectful distance from him. A lot of bad luck had started after meeting Dustless. Ah, Gucheng, don't look at me with such hatred. Some occasions require a positive character or a supervillain. Dustless shrugged and said helplessly. The corner of Koju's mouth twitched, and he immediately understood what that meant. His expression became even more gloomy as he said, "So, I am destined to be the tragic villain, and you are the hero?" "Not bad." Dustless smiled and nodded. Koju's face turned red, and countless unwillingness rushed into his head. An unprecedented resentment appeared, and his body began to emit golden lightning. "Thanks to you, I wasn't interested in the identity of the fourth ancestor. But, thanks to your oppression and humiliation, I awakened and controlled a curly beast." Koju's cold tone was a bit proud. "Is that so?" As expected of the strongest fourth ancestor. Dustless's expression was ordinary as he said softly, "Looking at the formation, it should be the fifth curly beast, the lion's yellow chicken. No, it should be called the lion's gold, right?" Although Dustless changed his words, Dustless still made Koju angry. "Lion's yellow chicken? What kind of disgusting name was that?" "Are you ready?" Koju said coldly. When his voice fell, Xian Gaiyong and Natsuki's expressions changed slightly, and they were very dissatisfied with Koju. "Koju, this is a school. You want to release your curly beast? Don't talk nonsense. Natsuki scolded with a stern face. The personal grudge between you two is a misunderstanding. Natsuki glared at Dustless. She knew that this bastard was purposely making things difficult for Koju every day. Please stop, Xianggyang said calmly. She meant that Koju was not allowed to release his curly beast. Let alone a true ancestor's curly beast. Even a normal vampire's curly beast would be extremely dangerous to students. It might even cause Itagami Island to explode. Koju was the fourth ancestor, and his magic power was above the dragon vein. His curly beast could even destroy heaven and earth. This was the reason why the ancestors were so arrogant. It's fine. I can now perfectly control the fifth curly beast. The lion's yellow chicken, no. The lion's gold. Koju's mouth twitched, and his face darkened. Unknowingly, he was also led into a ditch by Dustless. Come out, lion's gold. His magic power exploded to an unimaginable degree. A large number of mysterious runes appeared on Koju's curly beast. Then, a golden divine beast descended from the sky. So strong. Xianggyang and Natsuki's expressions changed. A true ancestor's curly beast was no joke. It could easily destroy Itagami Island. Then I'll get serious too. Dustless's eyes narrowed as he looked at the golden lion descending from the sky. His dry lips parted slightly. Dowbreaker's 90 black coffin. Countless black crescent moons descended from the sky. If one looked carefully, they would find that each of them was actually a terrifying blade. Their densely packed numbers blotted out the sky. In just a moment, the world became dark as all of them attacked Koju's curling beast. Poochie, Poochie, Poochie. A few horrifying cutting sounds suddenly came. The golden lion in the sky howled a few times and disappeared. The dense black shadowless blades had killed it in an instant. Chapter 15-16. Poochie. The ear-piercing sound continued to echo in the ears of Natsuki and Koyama. They stared blankly at the dismembered curly beast in the sky. Their bodies remained motionless as if they had been petrified. This was a curly beast of a true ancestor. Even if Koju was only a dabbler, the strength of these curly beasts was undeniably strong. Am I dreaming? Koju, who was deeply shocked, was stunned. He subconsciously pinched his right hand. Damn it, it hurts. The intense pain caused Koju's face to darken. But the pain in his body was far less than the mental blow. His eyes locked onto Dustless, unwilling to give up. He simply couldn't remember what sort of monster this fellow was. In this world, the true ancestors were recognized as the strongest. The three true ancestors had almost divided the entire world. Although Koju, the fourth true ancestor, was a rising star and might not be as strong as them, there was no reason why he couldn't kill a mere human. How should I deal with you now, Koju? Dustless approached Koju with a playful look. He had a playful smile on his face. Not to mention Xiao Guqing, even Xianggyang and Nangong Natsuki felt pity for Xiao Guqing. Xiao Guqing was playing with his life. He wanted to take revenge and wash away his shame, but he couldn't treat his life as a joke. There's no need to be nervous. Relax. Dustless was very friendly. It was as if he had met an old friend. Koju couldn't help but let his guard down. Dustless took advantage of the moment when he was careless. He walked in front of Koju and said something that only the two of them could hear. Actually, I want to ask you something. Whose blood did you suck to awaken the fifth curly beast? Dustless narrowed his eyes. Koju wanted to say something but stopped. His face turned red as he lowered his head. He cursed Dustless in his heart. This guy was clearly trying to embarrass him. Could it be Motoki Yase? Dustless said in a strange tone. I sensed the same aura from him as the lion's gold. You must have sucked his blood to awaken the fifth scroll beast, right? This is a serious question, please don't talk nonsense. Xiao Guiyong said with a pale face. It's not impossible. Compared to Xiao Guiyong, Natsuki found it much easier to accept. Koju had often been oppressed by Dustless, and he had awakened his blood-sucking beast. It was understandable that he wanted to defeat Dustless. What happened? What's the matter with all of you? In the corridor, there was another burst of hurried footsteps. As the figure quickly approached, The graceful silhouette gradually became clearer. This person was none other than Jijua Shelley, who was in charge of monitoring the fourth true ancestor, Akatsuki Kogu. So it's Shelley. It's nothing. Koju Akatsuki and Motoki Yase are just gay. Dustless said casually, with a cunning look in his eyes. Gay. Everyone was shocked when they heard that word. It was not that they were uneducated, but they had never heard of that word before. What do you mean? Jishua Shelley was confused. It means that Koju Akatsuki is gay. Dustless exposed Koju Akatsuki's scars. Bastard. Don't talk nonsense. I'll sue you for slander. Koju Akatsuki said with a dark face. I'm a normal man, you're gay. Oh, everyone is here. As soon as Koju Akatsuki's voice faded, a figure that Koju Akatsuki didn't want to see appeared. He was wearing headphones, and the most obvious thing was that there were 2 teeth marks on his neck. It was Motoki Yase. This is bad. Koju Akatsuki was stunned. He subconsciously glanced at Dustless, who had already walked to Motoki Yase, and was circling him. Everyone, look at the 2 teeth marks on this guy's neck. Dustless's words attracted everyone's attention. The 2 teeth marks were very obvious. Although they had already healed, there were still scars. Motoki, give me an explanation. Koyomi suppressed the anger in her heart and asked. She and Motoki Yase weren't really boyfriend and girlfriend, but everyone knew about their relationship. Now there was news that Koju Akatsuki and Motoki Yase were gay. Koyomi was about to vomit blood. I accidentally touched it. Motoki Yase hurriedly denied. If Dustless found out that Koju Akatsuki had sucked his blood, he wouldn't be able to face anyone anymore. Is that so? Dustless smiled but didn't say anything. He stared at Koju Akatsuki, and a beam of light appeared on his fingertip. Laser. The beam of light shot straight at Koju Akatsuki. You want to defeat me with this? You underestimate me. Koju Akatsuki looked disdainful. His body emitted a golden halo, and the place where he stood formed a golden shield that deflected the beam of light. It was the ability of the 5th scroll beast, Lion's Gold. Oh no. Motoki Yase's heart sank. As the blood medium of Lion's Gold, he was naturally affected. His body emitted a special aura that was the same as Lion's Gold. Goodbye. Koyomi snorted coldly and left with a face full of disgust. Jijua Shelley also did the same. Koju Akatsuki gave her a bad feeling, and now he was gay. Natsuki Nangong also shook her head and left. Please continue. Dustless also left decisively, leaving the stage to the 2 gays. This is what you get for offending me. Your girlfriend ran away. Serves you right. Wu Chen was secretly pleased. Yase Moki was the one who tipped them off, so the Lion King organization sent people to monitor him. Now that he was labeled as a gay, Xian Guyong probably wouldn't care about him anymore. Chapter 15-17. Motoki Yase and Koju looked at each other with sadness written all over their faces. Damn it. It's all Dustless's fault. Koju complained. Because of Dustless's instigation, Akatsuki Koju's reputation was already in tatters. He had become a street rat that everyone wanted to beat up. Today, what was even worse was that he had to bear the label of being a homosexual. He was being treated as a homosexual. Humph. It's all your fault. Motoki Yase cursed in his heart. It was all because of Koju that he was inexplicably sucked of his blood. Now even his good friend of many years, Xiao Gaiong, had left him. He was particularly unlucky and depressed, and for the first time, he felt resentful towards his good friend. Cough cough cough. Yase-kun, there's something I want to talk to you about. Koju said with embarrassment. Spit it out. Motoki Yase was unhappy. His girlfriend left him. He was very unhappy. I was injured by Dustless just now. Can you? Koju pointed at the burn mark on his abdomen. There was an obvious burn mark on his abdomen. He looked at Motoki with an imploring look. You want to suck my blood? Bastard, don't come near me. Yase Motoki warned loudly as he looked at Koju suspiciously. Don't tell me it's the same as that guy said. Are you really gay? Pfft. Koju was speechless as he looked at Motoki Yase. It was fine that Wuchen doubted him, but now even his best friend suspected that he was gay. We've known each other for a few years. Don't you know what kind of person I am? Koju said angrily. That was all made up by Dustless. Don't talk nonsense. Suck my blood and heal my wounds. Koju didn't care whether Moki agreed or not. He pounced on Moki, who was caught off guard, and was pinned to the ground. Gotcha. Koju bared his sharp fangs and bit Moki's neck. Dustless was quite ruthless. Koju's abdomen was badly burned. If it was an ordinary injury, he could just grit his teeth and endure it. But this time, the pain made him grimace. He couldn't bear it any longer. TSK. As expected, it was the right decision to return. Luckily, I borrowed a camera from Natsuki. In a certain corner, Dustless excitedly stared at Koju and Moki Yase, who were rolling on the ground. He quickly picked up his camera and took a few close-up shots of the two people fighting fiercely. Tomorrow, the photos of the two of you in love will be spread throughout the entire Rainbow Sea Academy. Dustless laughed dryly. He didn't want to disturb Koju and Yase Moki's good time. He left quietly and left the rest of the time for them to play to their heart's content. The next morning, in the spacious classroom, Xiao Guqing was lazily lying on his desk. He touched the wound on his stomach and nodded with satisfaction. Vampires have amazing recovery abilities. Even Dustless doesn't have my recovery abilities. If I work a little harder, I can definitely surpass him. Unlike Koju in the original work, Koju in this world desperately wanted to become stronger. Only then would he not be mocked and humiliated by Dustless. But if I want to awaken other curly beasts, I will need a new blood source. Koju had a splitting headache. This was the biggest and most troublesome problem. Koju. At this time, a slender girl suddenly appeared in front of him. Koju's eyes flashed. He was familiar with this person. It was Azure Wing. That Azure Wing. Koju's voice came to an abrupt halt. Azure Wing was holding a photo and walking over angrily. Her face was red, and her sadness was clear. There were even tears at the corner of her eyes. Azure Wing, who bullied you? I will help you teach him a lesson. Koju's sense of justice was bursting. His good friend was being bullied. Azure Wing was even angrier when she heard this. The one who bullied me is you bastard. Azure Wing scolded. She then mercilessly slapped Koju in the face. Slap, slap, slap. The crisp sound was particularly loud. A clear palm print appeared on Koju's face. Under everyone's gaze, Koju was slapped several times. What's going on? Is this woman crazy? Koju was stunned and looked constipated. I'm crazy. Azure Wing was even angrier. She threw the photo in her hand at Koju's face and said with hatred, No wonder Kiki has been following you. I didn't expect you two to have such a relationship. There's nothing going on between us. Koju felt his balls ache. He picked up the photo on the ground and glanced at it. He was so angry that he almost fainted. The photo was of him and Moki being intimate. It was the process of him sucking Moki's blood yesterday. TSK. This is really good. Dustless, who was secretly observing this, laughed. It was more comfortable than beating up Koju himself. Humph. Suddenly, there was a heavy groan behind him. Dustless was stunned. He subconsciously turned his head and saw Nangong Natsuki, who was hugging her chest, and Asteruti, who was dressed as a maid. Cough, cough, cough. What's the matter? Dustless scratched his head and said awkwardly. This is your salary for this month. Go buy some decent clothes. Don't embarrass me tonight. Natsuki handed Dustless a large stack of cash. What distinguished guest is visiting? Dustless was surprised. Someone invited me to a banquet tonight. I have to bring a partner. Natsuki handed Dustless an invitation. The name of the inviter was familiar. Dimitri Vatler. Chapter 15-18. Dustless stood there motionlessly. He neither agreed nor refused. He just remained silent. No one knew what he was thinking. If you don't have time, I'll go find Koju. Natsuki saw that Dustless did not reply and turned to leave. Wait. Dustless's body flashed and appeared in front of Natsuki. He looked at the unhappy Natsuki and said bluntly, "Don't you think that Dimitri Vatler has other motives?" "Of course I know. Although that snake player looks like a battle maniac, he is actually very meticulous. He definitely has a scheme. That's why I want to go and take a look. But his banquet seems to be targeted at me. I need to find a partner of the opposite sex." At the end, Natsuki stomped her feet in annoyance like a child. "That's why I'll let you be my partner this time. Of course, if you don't want to, I'll let Koju take advantage of you," Natsuki Nangong said indifferently. After all, she had nothing to lose. "You." Hearing this, Dustless was speechless. He did not expect Natsuki to be so shameless. "No problem, I agree." Dustless gritted his teeth and agreed. Although he did not like that Vatler, he would not lose anything by going. At night, the weather turned cold. The sea was filled with bone-chilling winds. Even so, there were still celebrities from all over the world. They were all wearing elegant gowns. The women were wearing skirts. Even if they were shivering from the cold, they endured it. Looking at the luxurious ship docked at the port, everyone was shocked. This luxurious cruise ship was unprecedentedly large. When it sailed on the sea, it was as shocking as a moving mountain. Damn nouveau riche, evil capitalist. His mouth twitched. Looking at the luxurious cruise ship, Dustless had the urge to stomp on it. Natsuki beside him was also dressed up. Her face was like carved jade. She had a noble temperament and an inexplicable majesty. She was very attractive. She changed into a beautiful white dress. Of course, it was still the same gothic lowly outfit. Natsuki nodded. This time, she didn't oppose Dustless. That snake charmer really likes to show off. If there's a chance, we must make his deep-sea tomb sink. The so-called Tomb of the Deep Sea was the name of this luxury cruise ship. Don't worry about that. If there's a chance, I'll definitely make it disappear. Dustless dryly laughed a few times, and then gave Natsuki a reassuring look. "Let's go. I want to see what the snake charmer is up to." Natsuki grabbed Dustless's arm and boarded the luxury cruise ship with Dustless. As expected of a tycoon. After boarding the ship, the entire appearance of the cruise ship was exposed to Dustless's eyes. It was extremely luxurious, and there were countless swimming pools and entertainment facilities. It was as if they were still on land. "Is it Miss Nangong? This side is lighter." The maid took the initiative to walk in front of Dustless and Nangong Nayu. She pointed at a quiet corridor. The two nodded and walked over. "I wonder if that brat Koju will come." Wuchen was quite curious. In the original novel, Akatsuki Koju had come with Jimu Shelley as his female companion. But now, when Jimu Shelley saw Akatsuki Koju, she didn't seem to care at all. If it weren't for Huangban Sha and Yahua, Akatsuki Koju might have already been chopped into pieces by Jimu Shelley. Rich people really know how to enjoy life. Walking up the stairs, the first thing he saw was a spacious first-class cabin. Luxury is a must, especially now that the wind has stopped blowing. The cool sea breeze is especially comfortable. Plus, the view of Itagami Island from the cruise ship is breathtaking. Aoao aoao aoao. At this time, a hysterical roar came from the void. Dustless and Nangong Natue were startled. They turned their heads to look at the source of the roar. That Vatler is really a bat that deserves a beating. A purplish-black light shot toward them. Its target was Dustless and Nangong Natue. "You're right." Nangong Natue nodded in agreement. She admitted to Dustless's words. "What are you waiting for?" Seeing Dustless standing there like a fool, Nangong Natue jumped up and pinched Dustless's ear. "You have to understand that I brought you here to humiliate him. This guy is really up to no good." Dustless didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He didn't like Nangong Natue's actions, but this annoying bat in front of him was even more annoying. Binding Path 81, sky-shattering. With a shout, a transparent barrier as thin as a cicada's wing appeared in front of Dustless and Nangong Natue. "Ah. Looks like I've been underestimated. You want to use such a weak barrier to block my attack? Nangong Natue, you sure have low standards. How could you find such a—" Vatler stopped abruptly midway through his sentence. Boom boom boom. The purplish-black ball of light hit Dustless's barrier with full force. Dustless thought that the barrier would be broken, but it turned out to be very sturdy. Not only did it block Vatler's attack, it didn't even budge. A firefly's light is just a flower in the night. It's impossible for it to reach the top. Dustless glanced at Vatler. He didn't waste any more time, and continued to stare at the night view of Itagami Island. Snake player, pay attention to your words. My partner is someone that even a true ancestor fears. Nangong Natua purposely closed the distance between her and Dustless. He could even feel her small breasts. However, the size was negligible. This guy is doing this on purpose. Dustless's sharp senses picked up on something else. Vatler was a battle maniac. If he knew that Dustless was as strong as a true ancestor, he would pursue him relentlessly. Chapter 15-19. Natsuya, on the other hand, was harboring malicious intentions. She wanted to borrow Dustless's hand to teach this arrogant fellow a lesson. It would be best if he lost all his face. Is that so? That's something to look forward to. Sure enough, just as Natsuya expected, Vatler's eyes were shining as he stared at Dustless. He looked like a hunter who had found his prey. Ha 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 ha. At this time, a voice filled with schadenfreude rang out. Dustless and Natsuya were startled. This voice was especially familiar to Natsuya. She could hear it every day. Following the source of the voice, a silver-haired youth appeared before them. Koju. Natsuya and Dustless both frowned. This was especially true for Dustless. Why was it that no matter where they went, they would always run into this jinx? This guy instantly killed my curly beast. He's much stronger than me, Koju said with admiration as he gave Dustless a thumbs up. Only the smile on his face didn't seem to be genuine praise for Dustless. A human could instantly kill a primordial ancestor's curly beast? How is that possible? Vatler's elegant and calm face revealed a trace of astonishment. He was becoming more and more curious about Dustless's background and personal strength. Although Koju wasn't very competent as a primordial ancestor, the fact that he could instantly kill a primordial ancestor's curly beast was too shocking. Koju's strength hasn't grown much, but his scheming has deepened. Is this a side effect of being bullied by Dustless? Natsuya frowned. As the fourth primordial ancestor, the more Koju praised Dustless, the deeper Vatler's obsession with Dustless. It's just that a certain primordial ancestor is too weak. He can't even deal with a human. The title of fourth primordial ancestor is simply given to a pig. Dustless retorted. What did you say? Koju's mouth twitched as he glared at Dustless. If it weren't for the difference in strength, he would have taught Dustless a lesson. Wasn't this the same as calling him a pig? However, after thinking about it, Koju felt ashamed. He was a true ancestor, but he was nothing compared to the other true ancestors who ruled the world. But then again, if I remember correctly, the banquet held on this ship can only be attended by male or female companions, right? Dustless said as he looked at Koju with a smile. This bastard. Koju's heart skipped a beat. He knew that Dustless was going to reopen his scars again. He was very depressed and wanted nothing more than to find a hole to crawl into. Then, Mr. Koju, where's your partner? Dustless looked around and didn't see Koju's partner. He then sneered. I almost forgot that you're gay. Just bring ye smoky. Don't slander me. Koju's face darkened. I received a personal invitation from Mr. Vatler, Xiao Guqing said with a hint of pride. Everyone had to bring a partner of the opposite sex to participate, and he was an exception among the countless people. This idiot. Dustless and Natsuki looked at each other and saw the surprise in each other's eyes. Koju's reaction was a bit slow. It seemed like he didn't know what Vatler's personal invitation meant. He probably wants to devour Koju. I heard that Snake Player has already devoured 2 elder-level vampires. His strength is very close to that of a true ancestor. Natsuki muttered. She vaguely understood why Vatler would personally invite Koju. Koju might be here to test how much he has grown. Once he reaches the standard, Vatler will probably make a move on him. I really don't know why this idiot is so smug. Natsuki-chan, your student is too weak. He's as slow as a block of wood. Maybe it won't be long before the fourth true ancestor leaves and is replaced by the new fourth true ancestor, Vatler. Dustless looked at Natsuki with a mocking expression. Umph. Hearing this, Nangong Natanu turned her head and snorted. She looked at Vatler with an unfriendly gaze. This guy was too unbridled. Snake player. Why did you call me here? If it's just a boring chat, then forgive me for being blunt, but I'm really angry right now. When she said the last few words, Natsuki Nangong was clearly angry. She had not dressed so carefully to see Vatler's pretentious display of superiority. Vatler sighed in a bored voice. I hate this kind of boring banquet as well. The henchman of the Black Death Emperor faction, Christopher Judson. You might have heard of him before, right? He's the new leader of the Black Death Emperor faction. He used to be a famous soldier in Europe, but he's now a terrorist. He's currently infiltrating Itagami Island with the intention of wreaking havoc. Hold on. Dustless waved his hand and interrupted Vatler. That means the terrorist is from Europe, from Battle King's territory, right? You should be fully responsible for this. That's right. Natsuki nodded in agreement. That's why. Dustless looked at Vatler and laughed dryly. I know the terrorist's goal is to cause destruction, but he's from Battle King's territory. You can just compensate him with a few trillion, or give him a few million square kilometers of land. Even with Vatler's temper, he was angered by Dustless's words. Money is one thing, but territory isn't something that can be compensated so casually. How big is Earth? A few million square kilometers? You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.